Welcome, crew, guys, gals, ghouls, and other worldly beings. Let's climb aboard the mothership, secure our tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. I am your hostess TessaTNT, broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, you can look me up under We Are Paradox Media at Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube, basically wherever you listen to your broadcasts and podcasts, and you should find me there. If you don't mind moseying on over to our YouTube channel, please subscribe, like any video that you've watched or listened to, leave me comments, whether good or bad, and let me know what show idea you would like me to check out, or what guest you'd like me to invite on over to our mothership. Alright, so tonight we are doing story time with me, TessaTNT. I was going to do the book 1984. Unfortunately, they didn't have it on the shelf, and then when I tried to check it out online, the only version I could get it in was Spanish, and no habla on the Spanish there, so I found another book that looks very promising, and this is The Best of the Best Horror of the Year, 10 Years of Essential Short Horror Fiction, edited by 8-time Hugo Award winner Ellen Datlow, featuring stories by Laird Barron, Susie McKee-Garnis, Brian Evanson, Neil Gaiman, Myra Grant, Tanith Lee, Olivia Llewellyn, Peter Straub, Lucy Taylor, and many, many others. Oh wow, there's all kinds of stuff going on over here. It's showing all of the things that Ellen Datlow has done in the past, and that is quite the list, and we're not going to go through that. Alright. Here's a little thank you to horror writers for giving me hours of enjoyment over these last 10 years. Thank you to my editor, Jason Katzman, for shepherding through the first 10 volumes of the series and hoping we work together on many more. Thank you to all you readers out there who love horror fiction as much as I do. Introduction. Welcome to this celebration of the last 10 years of great short horror fiction. After editing the horror half of the year's best fantasy and horror for 21 years, the series was discontinued, but Nightshade Books stepped up and agreed to have me edit a horror annual, the best horror of the year. Now, after 10 years going strong, we're presenting a best of the best, including many of my favorite stories chosen from the first 10 volumes of the ongoing series. I've picked between 2 and 4 stories from each of the 10 volumes. One thing I realized during my reread is how much high-quality short horror fiction is being published now, more so than even 10 years ago. Established authors continue to produce top-notch work, and it's always a kick to pick a story by someone I haven't published before. I never even think about that during the selection process, but it is something I note when summing up the year. There are zombies and vampires and serial killers and ghost stories and Lovecraftian horror herein, proving something I've consistently emphasized when on panels. that are intended to bemoan the tired old tropes of horror. There's a reason these tropes/monsters don't go away. They are not tired, they are not worn out, and as long as writers take a fresh look at them and continue to create bracing takes on them, they will never be. Trust me, you'll see. I haven't read more than a handful of novels since I started working on my best of the year because most of my time is taken up reading short stories. However, I thought I'd note a few of my favorites of the last 10 years. Sharp Teeth by Toby Barlow Harper is a werewolf novel told in verse, but don't let that scare you away. It's free verse, not rhyming, and the book is wonderfully gripping, in part due to its compression of language. Go and read it. You won't be disappointed. Highly recommended. The Shadow Year by Jeffrey Ford, William Morrow, is a satisfying expansion of Ford's novella, Watch Town, creating a sharp snapshot of growing up on Long Island, New York in the early 1960s. Two brothers and their young sister investigate mysterious occurrences in the neighborhood, partly with the help of the sister's seemingly preternatural powers of detection. The adult narrator, looking back at a dark year in his family's hometown, never intrudes on the story, and the characters are so realistic that it's almost painful to read about them. Highly recommended. Let the Right One In by John Ajvide Lindqvist Quercus was originally published in Sweden in 2004. It made a huge impression when it was published in the United States and the United Kingdom in 2007, and the movie based on the novel was released in 2008. I saw the movie first, and although I ended up enjoying the movie more than the novel is also quite good. Oscar, a bullied 12-year-old, lives with his divorced mother in a housing complex just outside of Stockholm. Mysterious neighbors move next door, heralding several burial or brutal murders in the area. Oscar meets one of the new neighbors, Eli, a 200-year-old vampire child as lonely as he is. There are some nice touches as their relationship develops, and there are also some terrific scenes indicating what happens when a vampire doesn't follow its own kind's rules, such as when it enters a dwelling uninvited. Both novel and movie do a terrific job of depicting preteen loneliness and the cold, bleak Swedish winter. Darling Jim by Christian Mork, Henry Holt, opens with the shocking discovery of the bodies of two sisters and their aunt in a suburb of Dublin, and unfolds into even more horror, all radiating from a seductive traveling storyteller who enchants every woman and girl within each of his uncanny charms. Darling Jim, as he is dubbed by those he seduces, entrances the inhabitants of the pubs he visits as he weaves his tale of two brothers, a wolf, a curse, and a princess. The mystery of the three deaths is painstakingly unraveled by a young mailman who really wants to be a graphic novelist, as he doggedly searches for clues to the truth after accidentally discovering the diary of one of the sisters. Okay, so is this just explaining what these stories are and not telling the stories? It's gotta be telling the stories. I'm telling you what. I'm just gonna keep scrolling forward here and see what I find, because there are tons of stories there. Alright. Lowland Sea by Susie McKee Charnas. Or is it Carnas? Miriam had been to Cannes twice before. The rush and glamour of the film festival had not long held her attention. She did not care for movies and knew the real nature of the people who made them too well for that magic to work. but from the windows of their festival hotel she could look out over the sea and daydream about sailing home, one boat against the inbound tide from northern Africa. This was a foolish dream. No one went to Africa now. No one could be paid enough to go, not while the red sweat raged there. The film festival itself had been postponed this year till the end of the summer on account of the epidemic. She'd read that vessels wallowing in from the south laden with refugees were regularly shot apart well offshore by European military boats, and the beaches were not only still closed but were closely patrolled for lucky swimmers who were also disposed of on the spot. Just foolish, really, not even a dream that her imagination could support beyond its opening scene, supposing that she could survive long enough to actually make it home, and she knew she was a champion survivor. Nothing would be left of her village, just as nothing, or very close to nothing, was left to her of her childhood itself. It was 8 years since she had been taken. Bad years until Victor had bought her. Her clan tattoos had caught his attention. Later, he had had them reproduced in makeup for his film, Hearts of Light. It was about African child soldiers rallied by a brave, warm-hearted American adventurer, played by Victor himself, against Islamic terrorists. She understood that he had been seduced by the righteous outlawry of buying a slave in the modern world, to free her, of course. It made him feel bold and virtuous. In fact, Victor was accustomed to buying people. Just since Miriam had known him, he had paid 2 Russian women to carry babies for him because his 4th wife was barren. He already had children, but edging towards 60, he wanted new evidence of his potency. Miriam was not surprised. Her own father had no doubt used the money he had been paid for her to buy yet another young wife to warm his cooling bed. That was a man's way. He was probably dead now, or living in a refugee camp somewhere, along with all the sisters and brothers and aunties from his compound. Wars, the red sweat, and fighting over the scraps would leave little behind. She held no grudge. She had come to realize that her father had done her a favor by selling her. She had seen a young cousin driven away for witchcraft by his own father, after a newborn baby brother had sickened and died. A desperate family could thus be quickly rid of a mouth they could not feed. Better still, Miriam had not yet undergone the ordeal of female circumcision when she was taken away. At first, she had feared that it was for this reason that the men who bought her kept selling her on to the others. But she had learned that this was just luck, in all its perverse strangeness, pressing her life into some sort of shape. Not a very good shape after her departure from home, but then good luck came again in the person of Victor, whose bed she had warmed till he grew tired of her. Then he hired her to care for his new babies, Kevin and Leaf. Twins were unlucky back home. There, one or both would immediately have been put out in the bush to die. But this, like so many other things, was different for all but the poorest of whites. They were pretty babies. Kevin was a little fussy, but full of lively energy and alertness that Miriam rejoiced to see. Victor's actress wife, Cameron, had no use for the boys. They were not hers after all, not as these people reckoned such things. She had gladly left to Miriam the job of tending to them. Not long afterward, Victor had bought Krista, an Eastern European girl, who doted extravagantly on the 2 little boys and quickly took over their care. Victor hated to turn people out of his household. He thought of himself as a magnanimous man. So his chief assistant, Bulgarian Bob, found a way to keep Miriam on. He gave her a neat little digital camera to keep a snapshot record of Victor's home life. She was to be a sort of documentarian. of the domestic. It was Bulgarian Bob, as opposed to French Bob, Victor's head driver, who had noticed her interest in taking pictures during an early shoot of the twins. B. Bob was like that. He noticed things and he attended to them. Miriam felt blessed. She knew herself to be playing next to the diet-sculpted, spa-pampered, surgery-perfected woman in Victor's household. So she could hardly count on beauty to secure protection, nor had she any outstanding talent of the kind that these people valued. But with a camera like this Canon G9, you needed no special gift to take attractive family snapshots. It was certainly better than, say, becoming someone's lowly third wife or being bonded for life to a wrinkled shrine priest back home. Krista said that B. Bob had been a gangster in Prague. This was certainly possible. Some men had a magic that could change them from any one thing into anything else. The magic was money. Victor's money had changed Miriam's status from that of an illegal slave to, of all wonderful things, that of a naturalized citizen of the USA. Although whether her new papers could stand serious scrutiny, she hoped never to have to find out. Thus, she was cut off from her roots, floating in Victor's world. Better not to think of that, though. Better not to think painful thoughts. Krista understood this. She understood a great deal without a lot of palaver. Yet Krista obstinately maintained a little shrine made of old photos, letters, and trinkets that she set up in a private corner wherever Victor's household went. Despite a grim period in Dutch and Belgian brothels, she retained a sweet naivety. Miriam hoped that no bad luck would rub off on Krista from attending to the twins. Krista was an East European, which seemed to render a female person more than normally vulnerable to ill fortune. Miriam had helped Krista to fit in with the others who surrounded Victor. The coaches, personal shoppers, arrangers, designers, bodyguards, publicists, therapists, drivers, cooks, secretaries, and hangers-on of all kinds. He was like a paramount chief with a great crowd of praise singers paid to flatter him, out shouting similar mobs attending everyone significant in the film world. This world was little different from the worlds of Africa and Arabia that Miriam had known, although at first it had seemed frighteningly strange. So shiny, so fast-moving, and gracious. But when you came right down to it, here were the same swaggering, self-indulgent older men fighting off their younger competitors, and the same pretty girls they all sniffed after, and the lesser court folk, of course, including almost invisible functionaries like Krista and Miriam. One day, Miriam planned to leave. Her carefully tended savings were nothing compared to the fortunes these shiny people hoarded, wasted, and squabbled over. But she had almost enough for a quiet, comfortable life in some quiet, comfortable place. She knew how to live modestly and thought she might even sell some of her photographs once she left Victor's orbit. It wasn't as if she yearned to run to one of the handsome African men she saw selling knockoff designer handbags and watches on the sidewalks of great European cities. Sometimes at the sound of a familiar language from home, she imagined joining them, but those were poor men, always on the run from the local law. She could not give such a man power over her and her savings. Not that having money made the world perfect. Miriam was a realist, like any survivor. She found it funny that even for Victor's followers, with their light minds and heavy pockets, contentment was not to be bought. Success itself eluded them, since they continually redefined it as that which they had not yet achieved. Victor, for instance, the one thing he longed for but could not attain was praise for his film, his first effort as an actor-director. "They hate me," he cried, crushing another bad review and flinging it across the front room of their hotel suite. Because I have the balls to tackle grim reality? All they want is sex, explosions, and the new Brad Pitt. Anything but truth. They can't stand truth. Of course they couldn't stand it. No one could. Truth was the desperate lives of most ordinary people. Lives often too hard to be born. Mere images on a screen could not make that an attractive spectacle. Miriam had known boys back home who thought they were Rambo. Some had become killers, some had become the killed. Doped up boys, slung about with guns and bullet belts like carved fetish figures, draped in strings of shells. Their short lives were not in the movies or like the movies. On this subject, as many others, however, Miriam kept her opinions to herself. Hearts of Light was scorned at Cannes. Victor's current wife, Cameron, fled in tears from his sulks and rages. She stayed away for days, drowning her unhappiness at parties and pools and receptions. Wealth, however, did have certain indispensable uses. Some years after Miriam had joined his household, Victor had bought the one thing that turned out to be essential: a white-walled mansion called La Bastide, set high on the side of a French valley, only a day's drive from Cannes. This was to be his retreat from the chaos and crushing boredom of the cinema world, a place where he could recharge his creative energies, so said B. Bob. When news came that 3 Sudanese had been found dead in Calabria, their skins crusted with a cracked glaze of blood, Victor had his 6 rented Mercedes loaded up with petrol and provisions. They drove out of Cannes before the next dawn. It had been hot on the Mediterranean shore. Inland was worse. Stubby planes droned across the sky, trailing plumes of retardant and water that they dropped on fires in the hills. Victor stood in the sunny courtyard of La Bastide and told everyone how lucky they were to have gotten away to this refuge before the road from Cannes became clogged with people fleeing the unnerving proximity of the red sweat. "There's room for all of us here," he said. Miriam snapped pictures of his confident stance and broad, chiefly gestures. "Better yet, we're prepared and we are safe. These walls are thick and strong. I've got a rack of guns downstairs and we know how to use them. We have plenty of food and all the water we could want. A spring in the bedrock underneath us feeds sweet, clean water into a well right here inside the walls. And since I didn't have to restore water, we have lots more of everything else." Oh, the drama already, Miriam told Krista. He was making the movie of all this in his head. Nor was he the only one. As the others went off to the quarters Bebop assigned them, trailing an excited hubbub through the cool, shadowed spaces of the house, those who had brought their camcorders dug them out and began filming on the spot. Victor encouraged them, saying that this adventure must be recorded, that it would be a triumph of photojournalism for the future. Privately, he told Miriam, "It's just to keep them busy. I depend on your skills to capture the reality of all of this. We'll have an exhibition later, maybe even a book. You've got a good eye, Miriam, and you've had experience with crisis in your part of the world, right?" La Bastide meant the country house, but the place seemed more imposing than that, standing tall, pale, and alone on a crag above the valley. The outer walls were thick with stout wooden doors and window shutters, as Victor had pointed out. He had had a wing added onto the back in matching stone. A small courtyard, the one containing the well, was enclosed by walls between the old and new buildings. Upstairs, rooms had tall windows and sturdy iron balconies. Those on the south side overlooked a French village 3 kilometers away down the valley. Everyone had work to do, scripts to read, write, or revise, phone calls to make and take, deals to work out. But inevitably, they drifted into the ground floor salon, the room with the biggest flat-screen TV. The TV stayed on. It showed raging wildfires. Any place could burn in the summer, and it was summer most of the year, now in Southern Europe. But most of the news was about the red sweat. Agitated people pointed and shouted, their expressions taut with urgency. Looters came yesterday. Where are the police? The authorities? We scour buildings for batteries, matches, canned goods. What can we do? They left us behind because we are old. We hear cats and dogs crying, shut in with no food or water. We let the cats out, but we are afraid of the dogs. Packs already roam the streets. Pictures showed bodies covered with crumpled sheets, curtains, bedspreads of many colors, laid out on sidewalks and in improvised morgues. The floors of school gyms, of churches, of automobile showrooms. My God, they said, staring at the screen with wide eyes. Northern Italy now? So close. Men carrying guns walked through deserted streets wearing bulky, outlandish, protective clothing and face masks. Trucks loaded with relief supplies waited for roads to become passable. Survivors mobbed the trucks when they arrived. Dead creatures washed up on the shorelines, some human, some not. Men in robes, suits, turbans, military uniforms talked and talked and talked into microphones, reassuring, begging, accusing, weeping. All this had been building for months, of course, but everyone in Cannes had been too busy to pay much attention. Even now at La Bastide, they seldom talked about the news. They talked about movies. It was easier. Miriam watched TV a lot. Sometimes she took pictures of the screen images. The only thing that could make her look away was a shot of an uncovered body, dead or soon to be so, with a film of blood dulling the skin. On Victor's orders, they all ate in the smaller salon without a TV. On the third night, Krista asked, "What will we eat when this is all gone?" "I got boxes of that pâté months ago." Bulgarian Bob smiled and stood back with his arms folded like a waiter in the posh restaurant. "Don't worry, there's plenty more." "My man," said Victor, digging into his smoked Norwegian salmon. Next day, taking their breakfast coffee out on the terrace, they saw military vehicles grinding past on the roadway below. Relief convoys were being intercepted now. The news had said, attacked and looted. "Don't worry, little Mai," Bebop said, as she took snaps of the camouflage-painted trucks from the terrace. "Victor bought this place and fixed it up in the Iranian crisis. He thought we had more war coming. We're set for a year, 2 years." Miriam grimaced. "Where food was stored in my country, that is where gunmen came to steal," she said. Bebob took her on a tour of the marvelous security at La Bastide, all controlled from a complicated computer console in the master suite. The heavy steel mesh gates that could be slammed down, the metal window shutters, and the ventilation ducts with their electrified outside grills. "But if the electricity goes off?" she asked. He smiled. "We have our own generators here." After dinner that night, Walter entertained them. Hired as Victor's taekwondo coach, he turned out to be a conservatory-trained baritone. "No more opera," Victor said, waving away an aria. "Old country songs for an old country house. Give us some ballads, Walter." Walter sang Parsley Sage, Barbara Ellen, and The Golden Vanity. This last made Miriam's eyes smart. It told of a young cabin boy who volunteered to swim from an outgunned warship to the enemy vessel and sink it, single-handed, with an auger. But his captain would not let him back on board afterward. Rather than haul that ship too, and so drown not just the evil captain but his own innocent shipmates, the cabin boy drowned himself. He sank into the lowland, low and lonesome, sank into the lowland sea. Victor applauded. "Great, Walter, thanks. You're off the hook now. That's enough gloom and doom. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight." They followed him into the library, which had been fitted out with a big movie screen and computers with game consoles. They settled down to watch Marx Brothers movies and old romantic comedies from the extensive film library. The bodyguards stayed up late, playing computer games full of mayhem. They grinned for Miriam's camera lens. In the hot and hazy afternoon next day, a green mini Hummer appeared on the highway. Miriam and Krista, bored by a general discussion about which gangster movie had the most swear words, were sitting on the terrace painting each other's toenails. The Hummer turned off the roadway, came up the hill, and stopped at La Bastide's front gates. A man in jeans, sandals, and a white shirt stepped out on the driver's side. It was Paul, a writer hired to ghost Victor's autobiography. The hot, cindery wind billowed his sleeve as he raised a hand to shade his eyes. "Hi, girls," he called. "We made it. We actually had to go off-road. You wouldn't believe the traffic around the larger towns. Where's Victor?" Bulgarian Bob came up beside them and stood looking down. "Hey, Paul," he said. "Victor's sleeping. Big party last night. What can we do for you?" "Open the gates, of course. We've been driving for hours." "From Cain's?" "Of course from Cain's," cried Paul heartily. "Some Peruvian genius won the Palme d'Or. Can you believe it? But maybe you haven't heard. The jury made a special prize for Hearts of Light. We have the trophy with us. Cammie's been holding it all the way from Cain's." Cameron jumped out of the car and held up something bulky wrapped in a towel. She wore party clothes, a sparkly green dress, and chunky sandals that laced high on her plumped calves. Miriam's own thin, straight legs shook a little with the relief of being up here on the terrace and not down there at the gates. Bulgarian Bob put his big hand gently over the lens of the camera. "Not this," he murmured. Cameron waved energetically and called Bebop's name and Miriam's, and even Krista's. Everyone knew that she hated Krista. Paul stood quietly staring up. Miriam had to look away. Bebop called, "Victor will be very happy about the prize." Krista whispered, "He looks for blood on their skin. It's too far to see, though, from up here." To Bob she said, "I should go tell Victor?" Bebop shook his head. "He won't want to know." He turned and went back inside without another word. Miriam and Krista took their bottles of polish and their tissues and followed. Victor, and therefore everyone else, turned a deaf ear to the pleas, threats, and wails from out front for the next 2 days. A designated security team made up of bodyguards and mechanics went around making sure that La Bastide was locked up tight. Victor sat rocking on a couch, eyes puffy. "My God, I hate this. But they were too slow. They could be carrying the disease. We have a responsibility to protect ourselves." The next morning, the Hummer and its 2 occupants had gone. Television channels went to only a few hours a day, carrying reports of the Red Sweat in Paris, Istanbul, Barcelona. NATO troops herded people into makeshift emergency camps, schools, government buildings, and, of course, that trusty standby of imprisonment and death sports arenas. The radio and news sites on the web said more. Refugees were on the move everywhere. The initial panicky convulsion of flight was over, but smaller groups were reported rushing this way and that all over the continent. In Eastern Europe, officials were holed up in mountain monasteries and castles, trying to subsist on wild game. Urbanites huddled in the underground malls of Canadian cities. When the Red Sweat made its lurid appearance in Montreal, it set off a stampede for the countryside. They said monkeys carried it, marmots, stray dogs, stray people. Ravens, those eager devourers of corpses, must carry the disease on their claws and beaks, or they spread it in their droppings. So people shot at birds, dogs, rodents, and other people. Krista prayed regularly to 2 little wooden icons she kept with her. Miriam had been raised pagan with a Christian gloss. She did not pray. God had never seemed further away. After a screaming fight over the disappearance of somebody's stash of a sweep by the security squad netted a hoard of drugs. These were locked up to be dispensed only by Bulgarian Bob at set times. "We have plenty of food and water," Victor explained, but not an endless supply of drugs. We don't want to run through it all before this ends, do we? In compensation, he was generous with alcohol, with which La Bastide's cellar was plentifully stocked. When his masseuse, she was diabetic, and one of the drivers insisted on leaving to fend for themselves and their personal requirements outside, Victor did not object. Miriam had not expected a man who had only even had to act like a leader on screen to exercise authority so naturally in real life. It helped that his people were not in a rebellious mood. They stayed in their rooms playing cards, sleeping, some even reading old novels from the shelves under the window seat downstairs. A running game of trivia went on in the games room. Which actors have played which major roles in green body makeup? People used their cell phones to call each other in different parts of the building, since calls to the outside tended not to connect. When they did, conversations were not encouraging. Nothing appeared on the television now except Muay Thai matches from Thailand, but the radio still worked. Fires destroyed the main hospital in Marsalis. Fire brigades did not respond. Refugees from the countryside who were sheltering inside are believed dead. Students and teachers at the University of Bologna broke into the city offices, but found none of the food and supplies rumored to be stored there. Electricity was failing now over many areas. Victor decreed that they must only turn on the modern security systems at night. During daylight hours, they used the heavy old locks and bolts on the thick outer doors. Bebob posted armed lookouts on the terrace and on the roof of the back wing. Cell phones were collected to stop them being recharged to no good purpose. But the diesel fuel for Victor's vastly expensive, vastly efficient German generators suddenly ran out. It appeared that the caretaker of La Bastide had sold off much of it during the previous winter. The ground floor metal shutters that had been locked in place by electronic order at nightfall could not be reopened. Unexpectedly, Victor's crew seemed glad to be shut in more securely. They moved most activities to the upper floor of the front wing, avoiding the shuttered darkness downstairs. They went to bed earlier to conserve candles. They partied in the dark. The electric pumps had stopped, but an old hand pump at the basement laundry tubs was rigged to draw water from the well into the pipes in the house. They tore up part of the well yard in the process, getting dust everywhere, but in the end, they even got a battered old boiler working over a wood fire in the basement. A bath rota was eagerly described too, although Alicia, the wig girl, was forbidden to use hot water to bathe her Yorkie anymore. Victor rallied his troops that evening. He was not a tall man, but he was energetic, and his big, handsome face radiated confidence and determination. Look at us. We're movie people, spinners of dreams that ordinary people pay money to share. Who needs a screening room, computers, TV? We can entertain ourselves, or we shouldn't be here. Sickly grins all around, but they rose at once to his challenge. They put on skits, plays, takeoffs of popular TV shows. They even had concerts, since several people could play piano or guitar well, and Walter was not the only one with a good singing voice. Someone found a violin in a display case downstairs, but no one knew how to play it. Krista and the youngest of the cooks told fortunes using tea leaves and playing cards from the game room. The fortunes were all fabulous. Miriam did not think about the future. She occupied herself taking pictures. One of the cameramen reminded her that there would be no more recharging of batteries now. If she turned off the LCD screen on the Canon G9, its picture-taking capacity would last longer. Most of the camcorders were already dead from profligate overuse. It was always noisy after sunset now. People fought back this way against the darkness outside the walls of the La Bastide. Miriam made earplugs out of candle wax and locked her bedroom door at night. On an evening of lively revels, it was Walter's birthday party. She quietly got hold of all the keys to her room that she knew of, including one from Bulgarian Bob's set. Bob was busy at the time with one of the drivers as they groped each other urgently on the second-floor landing. There was more sex now and more tension. Fistfights erupted over a card game, an edgy joke, the misplacement of someone's plastic water bottle. Victor had security drag one pair of scuffling men apart and hustle them into the courtyard. "What's this about?" he demanded. Skip Riker panted. He was boasting about some Rachman al-Hajj concert he went to. "That guy is a god-dang Arab, a crazy damn Muslim." "Bullshit," Sam Landry muttered, rubbing at a red patch on his neck. "Music is music." "Where did that goddamn sweat start, jerk? Africa?" Skip yelled. "The ragheads passed it around among themselves for years, and then they decided to share it. How do you think it spread to Europe? They brought it here on purpose, poisoning the food and water with their contaminated spit and blood. Who could do that better than musicians on tour?" "Asshole," hissed Sam. "That's what they said about the Jews during the Black Plague, and they'd poisoned village wells. What are you, a Nazi?" "Fucker," Skip screamed. Miriam guessed it was withdrawal that had him so raw. Coke supplies were running low, and many people were having a bad time of it. Victor ordered Bulgarian Bob to open the front gates. "Quit it right now, both of you," Victor said, "or take it outside." Everyone stared out at the dusty row of cars, the rough lawn and the trees shading the weedy driveway as it corkscrewed downhill toward the paved road below. The combatants slunk off, one to his bed and the other to the kitchen to get his bruises seen to. Jill, Cameron's hairstylist, pouted as Bob pushed the heavy front gates shut again. "Bummer. We could have watched from the roof, like at a joust." Bob said, "They wouldn't have gone out. They know Victor won't let them back in." "Why not?" said the girl. "Who's even alive out there to catch the sweat from anymore?" "You never know." Bob slammed the big bolts home. Then he caught Jill around her pale midriff, made mock growling noises, and swept her back into the house. Bob was good at smoothing ruffled feathers. He needed to be. Tensions escalated. It occurred to Miriam that someone at La Bastide might attack her, just for being from the continent on which the disease had first appeared. Mike Bellows, a black script doctor from Chicago, had vanished the weekend before, climbed the wall and ran away, they said. Miriam saw how Skip Riker, a film editor with no film to edit now, stared at her when he thought she wasn't looking. She had never liked Mike Bellows, who was an arrogant and impatient man. Perhaps Skip had liked him even less and had made him disappear. What she needed, she thought, was to find some passage for herself, some unwatched door to the outside that she could use to slip away if things turned bad here. That was how a survivor must think. So far, the ease of life at La Bastide, the plentiful food and sunshine, the wine from the cellars, the scavenger hunts and skits, the games in the big salon, and fancy dress parties had bled off the worst of the people's edginess. Everyone so far accepted Victor's rules. They knew that he was their bulwark against anarchy, but Victor had only as much authority as he had willing obedience. Food rationing, always a dangerous move, was inevitable. The ultimate loyalty of these bought and paid for friends and attendants would be to themselves, except maybe for Bulgarian Bob, who seemed to really love Victor. Only Jeff, one of the drivers, went outside now, tinkering for hours with the engines of the row of parked cars. One morning, Miriam and Krista sat on the front steps in the sun watching him. "Look," Krista whispered, tugging at Miriam's sleeve with anxious, pecking fingers. Down near the roadway, a dozen dogs, some with chains or leads dragging from their collars, harried a running figure across the field of withered vines in a soundless pantomime of hunting. They both stood up, exclaiming. Jeff looked where they were looking. He grabbed up his tools and herded them both back inside with him. The front gates stayed closed after that. Next morning, Miriam saw the dogs again from her balcony. At the foot of the driveway, they snarled and scuffled, pulling and tugging at something too mangled and filthy to identify. She did not tell Krista, but perhaps someone else saw too and spread the word. There was a shortage of news in La Bastide these days, as even radio signals had become rare. Searching for toothpaste, Miriam found Krista crying in her room. "That was Tommy Mulroy," Krista sobbed. "That boy that wanted to make computer games for movies. He was the one with those dogs." Tommy Mulroy, a minor hanger-on and a late riser by habit, hadn't made it to the cars on the morning of Victor's hasty retreat from the Canes. Miriam was doubtful that Tommy could have found his way across the plague-stricken landscape to La Bastide on his own, and after so much time. "How could you tell from so far?" Miriam sat down beside her on the bed and stroked Krista's hand. "I didn't know you liked him." No, I hate that terrible monkey boy," Krista cried, shaking her head furiously. "Bad jokes and pinching, but now he is dead." She buried her face in her pillow. Miriam did not think the man chased by dogs had been Tommy Malloy, but why argue? There was plenty to cry about in any case. Winter had still not come. The cordwood stored to feed the building's 6 fireplaces was still stacked high against the courtyard walls. Since they had plenty of water, everyone used a lot of it. Heated in the old boiler, every day a load of wood ash had to be dumped out of the side gate. Miriam and Krista took their turns at this chore together. They stood a while in spite of the reeking garbage overflowing the alley outside, so no one came to take away any more. The road below was empty today. Up close, Krista smelled of perspiration and liquor. Some in the house were becoming neglectful of themselves. "My mother would use this ash for making soap," Krista said. "But you need also, what is it, lime?" Miriam said, "What will they do when all the soap is gone?" Krista laughed. "Riots? Me too. When I was a kid, I thought luxury was to change the bed sheets every day for fresh." Then she turned to Miriam with wide eyes and whispered, "We must go away from here, Mimi. They have no red sweat in my country for sure. People are farmers, villagers. They live healthy outside the cities. We can go there and be safe." "More safe than in here?" Miriam shook her head. "Go in, Krista. Victor's little boys must be crying for you. I'll come with you and take some pictures." The silence outside the walls was a heavy presence, bitter with drifting smoke that tasted harsh. Some of the big new villas up the valley, built with expensive synthetic materials, smoldered slowly for days once they caught fire. Now and then thick smoke became visible much further away. Someone would say, "There's a fire to the west," and everyone would go out on the terrace to watch until the smoke died down or drifted away out of sight in the wind. They saw no planes and no troop transports now. Dead bodies appeared on the road from time to time, their presence signaled by crows calling others to the feast. Miriam noticed that the crows did not chase others of their kind away, but announced good pickings far and wide. Maybe that worked well if you were a bird. A day came when Krista confided, in a panic, that one of the twins was ill. "You must tell Victor," Miriam said, holding the back of her hand to the forehead of Kevin, who whimpered. "This child has a fever." "I can't say anything. He's so scared of the sweat. He'll throw the child outside." His own little boy? Miriam thought of the village men who drove out his son as a witch. That's just foolishness. She told Krista, but she knew better, having known worse. Neither of them said anything about it to Victor. 2 days later, Krista jumped from the terrace, with Kevin's small body clutched to her chest. Through tears, Miriam aimed her camera down and took a picture of the slack, twisted jumble of the two of them. They were left there on the driveway gravel with its fuzz of weeds, and soon after, its busy crows. The days grew shorter. Victor's crowd partied every night, never mind about the candles. Bulgarian Bob slept on a cot in Victor's bedroom, with a gun in his hand, another thing that everyone knew but nobody talked about. On a damp and cloudy morning, Victor found Miriam in the nursery with little Leaf, who was on the floor playing with a dozen empty medicine bottles. Leaf played very quietly and did not look up. Victor touched the child's head briefly and then sat down across the table from Miriam, where Krista used to sit. He was so clean-shaven that his cheeks gleamed. He was sweating. "Miriam, my dear," he said, "I need a great favor. Walter saw lights last night in the village. The army must have arrived at long last. They'll have medicine. They'll have news. Will you go down and speak with them? I'd go myself, but everyone depends on me here to keep up some discipline, some hope. We can't have more people given up like Krista." "I'm taking care of Leaf now," Miriam began faintly. "Oh, Cammy can do that." Miriam quickly looked away from him, her heart beating hard. Did he really believe that he had taken his current wife into La Bastide after all, in her spangly green party dress? "This is so important," he urged, leaning closer and blinking his large blue eyes in the way that Bob always said the camera loved. "There's a very, very large bonus in it for you, Miriam. Enough to set you up very well on your own when this is all over. I can't ask anyone else. I wouldn't trust them to come back safe and sound, but you're so level-headed, and you've had experience with bad times. Not like some of these spoiled, silly people here. Things must have gotten better outside, but how would we know? Shut up in here. Everyone agrees. We need you to do this." "The contagion must have died down by now," he coaxed. "We haven't seen movement outside in days. Everyone is gone or holed up, like us. Soldiers wouldn't be in the village if it was still dangerous down there." Just yesterday, Miriam had seen a lone rider on a squeaky bicycle pedaling down the highway. But she heard what Victor was not saying, that he needed to be able to convince others to go outside, convince them that it was safe, as the more crucial supplies, dope, toilet paper, dwindled, that he controlled those supplies, that he could, after all, have her put out by force. Listening to the tink of the bottles in Leaf's little hands, she realized that she could hardly wait to get away. In fact, she had to go. She would find amazing prizes, bring back news, and they would all be so grateful that she would be safe here forever. She would make up good news if she had to please them, to keep her place here inside La Bastide. But for now, go she must. Bulgarian Bob found her sitting in dazed silence on the edge of her bed. "Don't worry, little me," he said. "I'm very sorry about Krista. I'll look out for your interest here." "Thank you," she said, not looking him in the eyes. "Everyone agrees." It was hard to think. Her mind kept jumping. Take your camera with you, he said. It's still working, yes? You've been sparring with it, smarter than some of these idiots. Here's a fresh card for it, just in case. We need to see how it is out there now. We can't print anything, of course, but we can look at your snaps on the LCD when you get back. The evening's feast was dedicated to our intrepid scout Miriam. Eyes glittered, the beautiful people of Victor's court toasted her, and of course their own good luck in not having been chosen to venture outside. Then they began a boisterous game. Who could remember accurately the greatest number of deaths in the Final Destination movies with details? To Miriam, they looked like crazy witches, cannibals in the candlelight. Yes, she could hardly wait to leave. Victor himself came to see her off early in the morning. He gave her a bottle of water, a ham sandwich, and some dried apricots to put in her red ripstop knapsack. I'll be worrying my head off until you get back, he said. She turned away from him and looked at the driveway, at the dust-coated cars squatting on their flattened tires, and the shrunken, darkened body of Krista. You know what to look for, Victor said. Matches, soldiers, tools, candles, you know. The likelihood of finding anything valuable was small, and she would go out of her way not to find soldiers, but when he gave her shoulder a propulsive pat, she started down the driveway like a wind-up toy. Fat dogs dodged away when they saw her coming. She picked up some stones to throw, but did not need them. She walked past the abandoned farmhouses and vacation homes on the valley's upper reaches, and then the village buildings, some burned and some spared, the empty vehicles dead as fossils, the remains of human beings. Being sold away, she had been spared such sights back home. She had not seen for herself the corpses in sun-faded shirts and dresses, the grass blades growing up into empty eye sockets that others had photographed there. Now she paused to take her own carefully chosen precious pictures. There were only a few bodies in the streets. Most people had died indoors, hiding from death. Why had her life bothered to bring her such a long way round, only to arrive where she would have been anyway, had she remained at home? Breezes ruffled weeds and trash, lifted dusty hair and rags fluttering from grimy bones, and made the occasional loose shutter or door creak as it swung. A few cows, too skittish now to fall easily to roaming pack of dogs, grazed watchfully on the plantings around the village fountain, which still dribbled dispiritedly. If there were ghosts, they did not show themselves to her. She looked into deserted shops and houses, gathering stray bits of paper, candle stubs, tinned food, ballpoint pens. She took old magazines from a beauty salon, 2 paperback novels from a deserted coffee house. Venturing into a wine shop got her a cut on the ankle. The place had been smashed to smithereens. Others had come here before her, like that dead man curled up beside the till. In a desk drawer she found a chocolate bar. She ate it as she headed back up the valley, walking through empty fields to skirt the village this time. The chocolate was crumbly and dry and dizzyingly delicious. When she arrived at the gates of La Bastide, the men on watch sent word to Bulgarian Bob. He stood at the iron balustrade above her and called down questions. What had she seen? Where exactly had she gone? Had she entered the buildings? Seen anyone alive? "Where's Victor?" Miriam asked, her mouth suddenly very dry. "I'll tell you what. You wait down there till morning," Bulgarian Bob said. "We must be sure you don't have the contagion, Miriam, you know." Miriam, not little me. Her heart drummed painfully. She felt injected into her own memory of Cammy and Paul standing here, pleading to come in. Only now she was looking up at the wall of La Bastide, not down from the terrace. Sitting on the bonnet of one of one of the cars, she stirred her memory and dredged up old prayers to speak or sing softly into the dusk. Smells of food, cooking, and wood smoke wafted down to her. Once, late, she heard squabbling voices at a second-floor window. No doubt they were discussing who would be sent out the next time Victor wanted news of the world, and one less mouth to feed. In the morning, she held up her arms for inspection. She took off her blouse and showed them her bare back. "I'm sorry, Miriam," Victor called down to her. His face was full of compassion. "I think I see a rash on your shoulders. It may be nothing, but you must understand. At least for now, we can't let you in. I really do want to see your pictures, though. You haven't used up all your camera's battery power, have you? We'll lower a basket for it." "I haven't finished taking pictures," she said. She aimed the lens up at him. He quickly stepped back out of sight. Through the viewfinder, she saw only the parapet of the terrace and the empty sky. She flung the camera into the ravine, panting with rage and terror as she watched it spin on its way down, compact and clever and useless. Then she sat down and thought. Even if she found a way back in, if they thought she was infected, they would drive her out again, maybe just shoot her. She imagined Skip Riker throwing a carpet over her dead body, rolling her up in it, and heaving her outside the walls like rubbish. The rest of them would not approve, but anger and fear would enable their worst impulses. "See what you made us do?" She should have thought more before about how she was a supernumerary here, acquired but not really needed, not talented as these people reckon such things, not important to the tribe. "Have I stopped being a survivor?" she asked Krista's withered back. In the house, Walter was singing "Some Enchanted Evening." Applause then, "The Golden Vanity." Miriam sat with her back against the outside wall, burning with fear, confused, and scalding self-reproach. When the sun rose again, she saw a rash of dark blisters on the backs of her hands. She felt more of them rising at her hairline, around her neck. Her joints ached. She was stunned. Victor was right. It was the red sweat. But how had she caught it? Through something she had touched? A doorknob? A book? A slicing shard of glass? By merely breathing the infected air? Maybe the chocolate? The idea made her sob with laughter. They wouldn't care one way or the other. She was already dead to them. She knew they would not even venture out to take her backpack, full of scavenged treasures. When she was dead, she threw its contents down the ravine after the camera to make sure. She'd been foolish to have trusted Bulgarian Bob or Victor either. They had never intended to let the dove back into the ark. She knelt beside Krista's corpse and made herself search the folds of reeking, sticky clothing until she found Krista's key to the rubbish gate. The key they had used to throw out the ashes. She sat on the ground beside Krista and rubbed the key right on her own pant leg. Let them try to keep her out. Let them try. Krista was my shipmate. Now I have no shipmates. At moonrise, she shrugged her aching arms through the straps of the empty pack and walked slowly around to the side alley gate. Krista's key clicked minutely in the lock. The door sprang outward, releasing more garbage that had been piled up inside. No one seemed to hear. They were whirring with song in the front wing and drumming on furniture to drown out the cries and pleadings they expected to hear from her. Miriam stepped inside the well yard, swallowing bloody mucus. She felt the paving lurch a little under her. A man was talking in the kitchen passageway, set into the ground floor of the back wing at an oblique angle across the well yard. She thought it was Edouard, a camera tech, pretending to speak on his cell as he sometimes did to keep himself company when he was on his own. Edouard, as part of security, carried a gun. Her head cleared suddenly, and she found that she had shut the gate behind her and had slid down against the inside wall, for she was sitting on the cool pavement. Perhaps she had passed out for a little. By the moon's light, she saw the well's raised stone lip, only a short way along the wall to her left. She was thirsty, although she did not think she could force water down her swollen throat now. The paving stones the men had pried up in their work on the plumbing had not been reset. They were still piled up out of the way, very near where she sat. Stones, water. Her brain was again so clogged with hot heaviness that she could barely hold her head up. Non, Edward shouted into his phone. Ce n'est pas vrai, ils sont menteurs tous. Tous? Yes, all of them. Mentors. She sympathized briefly. Her mind kept tilting and spilling all its thoughts into the turgid jumble, but there were constants. Stones, water, the exiled dove, the brave cabin boy, Krista and little Kevin. She made herself move, trusting to the existence of an actual plan somewhere in her mind. She crawled over to the stacked pavers. Slowly and with difficulty, she took off her backpack and stuffed it with some of the smaller stones, one by one. Blood beaded black around her fingernails. She had no strength to pull the loaded pack onto her back again, so she hung it from her shoulder by one broad strap and began making her painful way toward the well itself. Edouard was deep in his imaginary quarrel. As she crept along the wall, she heard his voice echo angrily in the vaulted passageway. The thick wooden well cover had been replaced with a lightweight metal sheet. Back when they had had to haul water by hand before the old laundry pump was reconnected, she lifted the metal sheet and set it aside. Dragging herself up, she leaned over the low parapet and peered down. She could not make out the stone steps that descended into the water on the inside wall, left over from a time when the well had been used to hide contraband. Now something. Her thoughts swam. Focus. Even without her camera, there was a way to bring home to Victor all the reality that he had sent her out to capture, for him in pictures. She could barely shift her legs over the edge, but at last she felt the cold roughness of the top step under her feet. She descended toward the water using the friction of her spread hands, turning her torso flat against the curved wall, like a figure in an Egyptian tomb painting. The water winked up at her, glossy with reflected moonlight. The backpack, painful with hard stone edges, dragged at her aching shoulder. She paused to raise one strap and put her head through it. She must not lose her anchor now. The water's chill lapped at her skin, sucking away her last bit of strength. She sagged out from the wall and slipped under the surface. Her hands and feet scrabbled dreamily at the slippery wall and the steps, but down she sank anyway, pulled by the bag of stones strapped to her body. Her chest was shot through with agony, but her mind clung with bitter pleasure to the fact that in the morning all of Victor's tribe would wash themselves and brush their teeth and swallow their pills down with the water Victor was so proud of, water pumped by willing hands from his own wonderful well. Head craned back, she saw that dawn pallor had begun to flush the small circle of sky receding above her. Against that light, black curls of the blood that her body wept from every seam and pore feathered out in secret silence into the cool, delicious water. That was a dark one. She got him after all, didn't she? Wingless Beasts, Lucy Taylor. The first thing I tell people headed out here is just this: go someplace else. I mean, Death Valley got that name for a reason, right? And the Mojave, of which Death Valley's a part, is especially dangerous in ways most people don't even suspect. I know because I've seen the results of somebody's wrong turn or ill-considered adventure. And even though I live out here and own Joe's towing service, which comes in handy at times, I don't patrol the off-road areas on a regular basis. Just when I'm edgy or restless, or when I've got reason to believe someone may be in need of assistance. Then I lock up my double wide and head out to the back country, checking salt pans and arroyos and lake beds where these afflicted with hubris or just old-fashioned stupidity are most apt to meet with disaster. Tragic deaths and mysterious disappearances don't deter people, though. They keep turning up, charging off into the blast furnace heat, not taking along enough food or water or gas, and sometimes, inevitably, a few meet with misfortune. Case in point, the gimp with the cane at the Bun Boy Diner this morning. Only a little after 6 a.m., and I'm just pulling into Baker, California, a pit stop for tourists traveling on I-15 between Barstow and Vegas. The town's claim to fame is having the world's biggest thermometer. Like you need that to tell you it's hotter than the devil's butthole here, which rises 134 feet over a main drag lined with 2-star motels, gas stations, and shuttered convenience stores. I park my truck and amble into the Bun Boy for my usual breakfast of eggs, hash browns, and grits before I head out to Barstow to visit my girl. Right off the bat, though, the creep at the counter gets under my skin. Soon as I see him, a squat, toadish little man with a shiny bald dome looks like it's been polished with pledge, and hear him yakking to Margot, the waitress, about his plans to go off-roading in the Mojave. I peg him for the kind of know-it-all who'll be in deep shit by sundown. I know his type, the obnoxious braying voice of a small man trying to sound imposing, the sardonic roll of his dishwater eyes when Margot suggests that the desert is best left to the young and the able-bodied, the puffed-up way he tries to pretend the cane's not really necessary, that he only carries it in case I encounter a rattlesnake. Well, no rattles here, I tell him and ask which of the vehicles out in the lot belongs to him. I figure him for the owner of the Subaru Outback or the Ram 1500, or even the goofy-looking Baja Beetle I saw coming in, but he slurps his coffee and says, "My's the red Camry. Oh, I know, go ahead and laugh, but it's got me where I need to go plenty times." Which amuses me because the kind of serious off-roading he's talking about demands a lot of a vehicle. At minimum, you need a flexible suspension, high clearance, and big tires with deep open treads. "That's the wrong ride for your purposes," I say, taking a stool next to him. "You want a vacation. Forget the Mojave. Just stay on 15 North. 3 hours from now, you can be laying bets at a crap table in the Bellagio or getting a lap dance at Spearmint Rhino Cabaret." He grunts, but whether it's in response to my unsought advice or to some other pain in his pancake flat ass, I can't tell. He upends the sugar bowl into his coffee and says, with disdain, "Vegas is where Satan vacations when he gets bored with hell. Myself, I prefer the purity of the desert." Now that takes me aback because he sure doesn't seem like a man who'd know much about purity or aspire to it or respect it for that matter. But then I suppose neither do I. Yet it was the austerity of the desert, the vast silence and uncompromising indifference to all human fears that lured me out here almost 10 years ago, and I've never been tempted to go back to my old badass life on the streets of LA not once. Joe Fitch, I say, extending a hand, which he shakes with a prissy distaste, suggesting he thinks I might have recently used it for wiping my ass. I shrug off the attitude and go on. If you're hell-bent on going out there by yourself, at least know what you're getting into. You break down, you get stuck, or your GPS lies to you, and let me tell you, a GPS will lie like a $10 whore. Any of that happens, and in this heat, you are god dang dead. Maybe still worrying about our handshake, he taps a squirt of hand sanitizer from a tube on the counter into his palm, which is thick and red as a slab of raw liver. Otis Hanks, and no offense, but I'd prefer you not curse. I won't, I tell him, except to say if you go off half-cocked in the desert without the right experience and equipment, you are well fucked and royally so. Hank scowls, and I figure I'm about to get chastised for the cussing, but what he says is, "Your name's familiar. Do we know each other?" I assure him that we don't. I wonder if we might have done time together, but I'm not about to bring up the nickel I did in Lompoc for a bar fight that ended up with a manslaughter charge, or the lesser run-ins I've had with the law on various occasions. My past is what I moved to the Mojave to forget. His comment about my name rankles, but still, in the interest of fairness, I try to put some fear into Hank's pointing out that the sun's barely up, and the giant thermometer already reads over 100 degrees, and if he has any sense at all, he'll rethink his plan for an off-road adventure in the middle of goddamn July. But I doubt that he will, because guys like him never listen. They're like my old man, rilling about sin and salvation from the pulpit of the Wrath of God Methodist Church back in California. They already got all the answers. To hear folks like that tell it, God himself comes to them for advice. So I tell Hanks about just a couple of the tragedies that have taken place here over the past few years, about the skeleton that was found in a desert wash by a group of kids looking for arrowheads just west of Newberry Springs along Interstate 40, and how it turned out to be the remains of a tourist from Munich who must have thought the Mojave was some kind of Disney World, but without the AC, and then proceeded to stroll off into the fiery furnace with just a half-gallon of water, wearing thong sandals, a t-shirt, and shorts. When they found him, his mouth and nostrils and every other orifice was stoppered with sand, and the vultures had pillaged his insides like conventioners at the Golden Nuggets buffet. And I tell him about the woman from Huntsville, Alabama, who got the terrific idea to take her 8-year-old son camping in the Mojave a couple of summers back, and how, when the road ran out and her GPS cheerfully instructed her to turn right and continue another 18 miles into the waterless hellhole, she followed directions. A ranger found the car and the kid dead nearby a few days later. The mother's body wasn't found for months. Not much more than a pile of bones, hair, and vulture scat, or so I heard. Margot swings by with a coffee pot, then, and refills my mug, saying, "You setting him straight, Reverend Joe?" This makes Hank's squinty eyes and their nets of wrinkly, sun-cured skin flicker with curiosity. "Don't tell me you're a man of the cloth, Mr. Fitch." Margot grins as she pours a steaming black stream. "Old Joel here's a reverend like I'm a pole dancer, but folks here gave him that name 'cause he lives out in the nowhere by himself like one of them monasticians." "Monastics," I say, "and I'm far from that, but my father was a minister with an interest in such things. I grew up listening to him preach about the religious tradition of men who turned their backs on civilization and went out into the desert of Egypt and the Sinai. Men like Abba Macarius and Anthony the Great, who were looking to deepen their spiritual life through isolation and physical hardship. Guess I got inspired by that," I shrugged. In hindsight, it seems naive to me now, but finding God was my aim when I moved out here years back, and I guess what started out as a bit of a joke at my expense is still a joke. chuckles Margot, but we like you now. You're one of us. Hank raises a brow so pale that it's almost translucent. And did you find God? The question pokes me like a sharp stick as I fork up my eggs. Of course not. There was nothing to find. We sit in silence then, shoveling food into our pie holes, but I keep dwelling on this moment about my name. After a while, I get up and amble out to my truck, noting with some amusement that the Camry belonging to this guy, who only requires his cane for warding off rattlesnakes, is parked in a handicap spot. I get a map from the glove compartment and come back inside. Hank's mouth twists in annoyance when I unfold the map, like he's worried I'm going to dip the northeast corner of Nevada into his biscuits and gravy, but I take out a pen and draw him a route through the backcountry to a remote, beautiful area I call the Cauldron. It's a straight shot from the paved road. No need to even get out of your car. Other side of the salt pan, there's a Joshua Tree forest, and near that, a dune field that'll make you think you're on Mars. I pause before adding, probably best not to try climbing them, though. Hank studies the map the way a prude eyes pornography, with distaste and a thinly veiled craving, then folds it up. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Fitch, but as I was explaining to our waitress here while you were outside, I'm a bit of an amateur aeromologist, he sees of my puzzled expression, one who studies the desert. Since my retirement, I've visited quite a few, the Gobi, the Sahara, the Atacama. I've hiked some of the world's most desolate regions and come back none the worse for it. He glances down at his right boot, which is built up higher than the left one, and yanks up a pant leg, offering a glimpse of an off-white prosthesis. Well, except for the incident with the leg, but that was due to a sin of lust, not a hiking mishap. Right about then, Margot notices some people across the room need more water and goes hurrying over with a pitcher while I try to dispel some unpleasant images about what kind of kinky sexual shenanigans an amputee fetish, perhaps, might result in the loss of a limb. Hanks notes our reactions and has the grace to redden a bit. After some awkward silence, he allows us how, since he has what he calls a flexible itinerary, he just may hang on to the map anyway. Wouldn't mind seeing that Joshua Tree forest, he says, and there's a wistful note in his voice that I haven't detected before, as though he's longing, maybe not so much to see Joshua trees, but to be somewhere, anywhere else besides here. When Hanks dons his safari hat and gets up to pay his tab, I throw down some bills and walk with him outside. Even with the cane, which is a striking piece of handiwork, mahogany with an intricately carved ivory handle, he creaks laboriously along, huffing like one burdened by more than just a physical disability. My tow truck, parked a few spaces down from his Camry, catches his eye. Joe's Towing Service. Now, I recall how I know you. I look at him quizzically. Two nice people I met on a trip recently said you towed their car when it stalled in the desert. Maisie and Claude from Modesto said if I saw you to send their regards. I turn away and gaze up at the ice thermometer, which now measures 104 as ice crystals clink in my chest. Names don't ring a bell. Hank sighs as though my failure to remember the couple confirms for him some basic belief about human nature. We shake hands again and I watch him drive off, then hightail it back into the Bun Boy and make it to the can just in time to puke up a thick slop of greasy coffee, potatoes, and eggs. What Hank said isn't possible. No fucking way. The last time I saw dear old Maisie and Claude, they were stone fucking dead, and I was towing their Mazda 280Z with their bodies in the back seat. Part of me, the impulsive, hot-headed ruffian whose misdeeds inspired some of my old man's more graphic sermons, wants to go after Hanks right then and there, but I choked down the urge. That was the old me. Now I know how to hang back and be patient. Bide my time. That's a skill the desert has taught me. So I climb into my truck and roar out toward Barstow, knowing I'll catch up with Hanks in due time. Right now, I need to spend time with my girl. Opal isn't her real name, of course. I call her that because her blue-gray eyes remind me of opals, flecked with tiny moors of cobalt and daffodil gold. She has found by a sheep herder wandering up near Red Mountain, half naked and near death with deep infected gashes on her shoulders and neck, like at some point she'd collapsed, and the vultures had done a little taste testing before she fought them off and got moving again. As far as anyone knows, she hasn't spoken to anyone since. The heat and the trauma of her ordeal, including whatever led to her being in that situation in the first place, has parboiled her brain. Now she occupies a room at the Roar Convalescent Center in Barstow, a Jane Doe waiting for somebody to come forward and give her a name. Today, when I slip into her room, she's propped up in bed, a little fuller in the face than the last time I saw her, but still stiff as a scarecrow, with that tiny mummified smile on her lips that never twitches or flags, that seems to hint at a cache of secrets she's hoarding. The only part of her that moves are her half-closed feral eyes, which scan back and forth, tuck, tick, tuck, as though she's mesmerizing herself by following the path of an interior metronome. After chit-chatting with one of the nurses, who stops in to say hi, I take a comb and brush from the right stand by the bed and set about braiding her hair, which has gone wide over the months that I've known her. To pass the time, I talk to her like I always do, just random stuff that she's heard before, about how it was when I first moved to the desert, how that ocean of emptiness both fascinated and horrified me. Something about that burnt, hostile terrain, so purged of anything conducive to sustaining life, gave me a strange kind of solace, born of pain and familiarity. I realized that my addled, punitive parents had given me something valuable after all, the ability to survive in a place so barren that few people even come here, and those that do generally don't stay very long. And although I didn't find God on the way most people know him, I found deities of my own understanding, hundreds of them, winged carrion eaters reigning over a savage landscape. I recognized them from my father's sermons, these vulture gods, and I named them after the archangels, Moloch and Charon and Metatron and Uriel and Gabriel. I recognized them at once for what they were, creatures old as the rocks and the salt pans, ancient as the bones of the fine creatures that once lived here 65 million years ago, when the Mojave was a vast inland sea. I knew they must see us as we really are, wingless beasts lumbering across a destroyed landscape, while they soar o'er the updrafts patient and cunning, knowing that we are here for only an eye blink in their eternity. The great birds appalled me at first, with their plucked scarlet heads and seething black eyes, and their habits struck me as ghastly. After startling one outside my trailer one day, I watched it take clumsy running hops, flapping furiously to get airborne, then regurgitate a gut full of stinking carrion all over the hood of my truck in an effort to lighten the load. That one, the lever of offerings, was the first, and soon others came. They'd soar on the thermals for hours within sight of my home, silent and watchful until I'd come outside and let them lead me to whatever they'd found that was dying or injured. A burrowed owl, a tortoise, a chuckwalla, a vagabond from Munich, or a mother desperate to find help for her boy. Opal shivers then and exhales a sound not much more than a thin hiccup of dread. I wonder if she's been hearing me. Doesn't much matter. She knows who I am. Her hair looks good when I finish it, the long braids sliding over her shoulders in smooth, ghostly ropes that stand out against her dark, ruddy skin. But when I hold the mirror up so she can admire herself, her eyes ignite like a cornered bobcat's and a snarled corkscrews between her barred teeth. I lean close, stroke a wisp of her hair back off her face, and whisper the same thing I always do. Next time I come here, I'm going to kill you. Now, it's Hanks's turn. On the way back toward Baker, I take a seldom used exit and follow an unmarked dirt road until I come to the edge of the cauldron. Here the remnant of road peters out at the edge of cracked lake bed, and I blaze across it, raising a rooster tail of white sand sparkling with tiny grains of feldspar and quartz. For miles around, there's no pavement, no signs, and no help if you need it. No indication that Hanks has passed this way either, so I head south, where the desert floor splits into a snake's nest of arroyos, and the earth is so dry that sections lurch up, overlapping each other like a shelf of ceramic tiles. When my tires crunch over the baked clay, the noise is an escalation of tiny explosions, and the air turns the color of cinders and chalk. I'm following the approximate route that I mapped out for Hanks, but when I see the outline of Joshua trees in the distance, a sudden sense of unease washes over me. I've always found the trees spooky, the way the branches claw and arc in grotesque, twisted shapes like the broken limbs of men who've been crucified. But now, when I get out of my truck to survey the terrain through binoculars, I spot the outline of a vulture amid the trees' deformed limbs. At the sight of me, the bird hisses softly. Its neck swivels round, and a beak so red it might have been dipped in a wound lifts into the yellow-white glare. It takes off, flying out toward a formation of orange sandstone that juts to the east. I follow its flight through the binoculars and zoom in on a dust-caked red fender. Hanks's Camry, left at the base of the rocks in a puddle of dwindling shade. Towing a car so you don't damage the transmission requires care and the right implements, but not ruining Hank's ride isn't high on my list of concerns. I hook it up to the back of my truck, tow it half a mile away, and offload it behind a low-rise bristling with pinyon and creosote. On the passenger seat, I find a modest supply of water and energy bars. A key is hidden under the floor mat. I stuff my backpack with bottles of water and granola bars, lock up the car, and pitch the key into the shrub. What I've found is that people whose vehicles disappear in the middle of nowhere generally do one of three things. They assume they've screwed up and return to the wrong place and commence a futile and increasingly frantic search, or they stay calm, keep their wits about them, and try to hike out. Either dehydration and heat stroke fail them, or I do the job with a crowbar I keep in my truck next to the phony maps. But either way, the birds feed. A third smaller group, those with a naive belief in the goodness of humanity, huddle in whatever shade they can find, presumably praying for help to come. Thank God when they see me approaching, at least until they realize I'm not there on a mission of mercy. The Modesto couple Hanks mentioned fell into that last category. Hanks, though, does none of these things. When I hike back to the sandstone formation, there's nothing to indicate he's returned to the place where his car ought to be. No helter-skelter footprints of the kind a panicked person generally leaves. No indication he's attempted to follow my tire tracks. I clamber onto the highest ridge of sandstone and do a sweep with the binoculars. I don't see him at first. His khaki clothing and tan safari hat blend in with the dune-colored sand, but the lazy swoops of vultures mark his place on the desert floor, like a giant red X. He's about a mile away, heading toward the dune field, puttering along like a geezer pursuing his garden. Everything catches his fancy. A thorny cactus pad, a stretch of orange dogweed, the green, the tapering shafts of a cluster of desert candles. As I watch, he looks up abruptly. Although I know at this distance he can't possibly see me, our eyes seem to lock. and his flaccid lips smack with what an over-imaginative mind might interpret as relish. Real or not, the gaze is unsettling and I turn away. A few seconds later, when I focus the binoculars again, he is no longer there. All I see are the bristly contours of a cluster of teddy bear cola and the slow rotation of obsidian wings against a searing hot sky. Has he stumbled into an arroyo or collapsed in the meager shade of some creosote bushes? I press on, expecting to catch up to him quickly, but the desert seems to have licked up his life like spilled water. It's not until mid-afternoon that I spot him again, when the temperature in this part of the cauldron must be approaching 120, and the heat waves the vultures are riding look like curtains of shimmering gauze. To my astonishment, the distance between us hasn't narrowed at all. If anything, Hanks has pulled farther away. The heat's pummeling him, though, exposing his decrepitude. His head's bowed, shoulders sagging, and the hand clutching the cane by turns stiffens and then undergoes bouts of violent trembling. He no longer stops to investigate this flower or that sparkly mineral, nor does he seem to notice the grim entourage that spirals above him like smoke rings expelled from the simmering earth. A check of my compass tells me what I already suspect, that his meandering course has begun to veer north. The straight line he undoubtedly thinks he's walking has begun to curve drastically, taking him not to the place where he left his car, but toward the Joshua Tree forest. For the next hour, I'm able to keep him in view, expecting him to drop any minute, but he soldiers on, and the distance between us barely shrinks. Finally frustrated, I break into a furious run and briefly enjoy the satisfaction all killers must feel when closing in on their prey. Yet, just when I'm almost upon him, something shifts as though a key's clicked in a door of the universe, and his outline flickers and fades. What just moments ago seemed so obviously flesh and bone blurs away into shadows and sand. The vultures disperse, and a deathly stillness ensues. Suddenly, I'm the only thing left alive on the earth, and the single sound is the rasp of my breathing. I check the number of full water bottles left in my pack, am shocked to discover there's only one left, and that it's less than half full. I've been drinking water throughout the day, but my throat feels like I've gargled with sawdust and brine, and my lungs burn like I've inhaled the desert. Still, I'm not ready to turn back. A determination that's strengthened when I find a bright gob of blood on the rubbery pad of a prickly pear cactus. From the looks of Hanks's tracks, it appears he's faltering badly, leaning so heavily on the cane that it punches into the sand an inch or two deep. Even as Hanks fades, so does the day. The shadows elongate, and the sun blow-torches the horizon with bands of vermilion and deep mustard blue. And the wind picks up, scouring my exposed skin and hurling huge, tangled masses of tumbleweed around like bizarre beach balls. Its bluster plays tricks with my hearing. A woman's voice, plaintive and whimpering, plays counterpoint to its keening. A second voice joins in and initiates a fevered duo. My father raging about the temptations of demons and the abyss of the damned where fallen angels feed on their prey. It's a rant as lunatic and mindless as the woman's, but more disturbing for notes of threat and contempt underlying it. The sky suddenly looks too big to be real, a painted backdrop meant to deceive me. The gritty wind, full of sadistic trickery, is bent on erasing Hank's tracks. To the west, a cloud of bats rises up from a nest of creosote bushes and takes to the sky like a flurry of semaphores from the pen of a demented scribe. Instinctively, I duck down and cover my head as their dark mass swarms by. The rush of their passing distracts me. The wearing voices subside. My head clears, and in the distance I see the stark outlines of the Joshua trees. In the fading daylight, the grotesque trees appear eerie and blighted. Black oval blooms fright their branches, giving some trees the appearance that they are ready to uproot from the earth under the weight of the vultures that roost in them. The stench of carrion waves toward me, and a low murmur makes the hair stiffen on the back of my neck. It's the voice of a woman begging for help, pleading for water. Then it changes to Hank's cries for water. The sound, unmistakably real this time, echoes from far back in the trees. I catch a glimpse of Hank's khaki hat as it flies off his head, of a body tumbling and falling, hitting the ground amid puffs of sand and a cascade of stones. For a second, the wind and Hank's mourn in unison. Then silence. I run toward him, but the sunset fires scalding light into my eyes, and my strides are unsteady and blundering. A shadow coiled beneath one drooping, heavy-laden tree brings to mind a fetally curved body. I grab for it and recoil as one hand disappears into flesh so decomposed that it slides off the bone in clumps of powdery fur, while the other grasps the jawbone missing most of its teeth, the scraggly remains of a coyote or fox. Other larger bones flecked with threadbare scraps of cloth suggest death's older and feeding's more savage. "Mr. Fitch," the words coming from behind me aren't so much spoken as spat, and I whirl around, arms raised, but not fast enough. Too late and too slow to block the knob of the cane before it staves in the flesh between my brows. Well, finally, there you are. I don't know how much time has passed, 10 seconds or a day, but Hank's gravelly voice is edged with impatience and thwarted intent. The cane he brandishes is slick with blood, and a caterpillar-like tuft of something I recognize to be one of my eyebrows adheres to a carved notch in the ivory. I want to seize him by his wattled neck and wring the life from him, but when he squats down and turns his vexed gaze on me, I can taste his loathing and feel the spikes embedded in his every word, and I shut my eyes. "You didn't hear what I was saying, did you? You were elsewhere." "No matter. I was speaking of the deserts of Norway and New England and Brazil. Can't tell you their names because they don't exist yet, but they will. You'll see. Oh, just give it time." I try to swallow, find my throat clogged. "I want water." He sneers. "Oh, don't we all?" In the bruise-colored dusk, he hobbles back and forth, hunched and scowling like a traveler on a subway, awaiting a long-delayed train he knows in his heart never will come. Suddenly he spins around and wags the cane a few inches away from my face. The sudden violent motion in front of my eyes off-kilters a slice of my brain, blurs my vision, and stymies my tongue. When I try to speak again, my parched throat produces only a feeble croak that elicits a look of disgust. "You think you're so unique, don't you?" He rolls up the right pant leg, reaches down and pops off the prosthesis, revealing a chewed stump of something oozing and raw like what you'd see in some third-world butcher shop. The charnel house smell of that suppurating stump makes me gag, but what's worse is that Hanks doesn't seem unduly discomforted, like he's been existing this way for a very long time. He lays a paternal hand on my shoulder. "We're not so different, you and me. That woman you named Opal, the one you found near Stovepipe and chose to keep for yourself, I understand how that happened. No place lonelier than the desert, and a man has his needs that a lap dance in a gentleman's club won't satisfy. I took a woman once, too, for my personal use. She was a Berber girl from the Tanir, whose family threw her out for being unchaste. Unlike you, though, I kept her tightly bound so she couldn't escape into the desert where some sheep herder could find her." He exhales a snort. "A sheep herder, for God's sake, like such occupations even exist in this day and age." He hops backward, stork-like on one leg, teeters a bit, then reattaches the prosthesis. "Didn't surprise me I had to forfeit a limb. I took what didn't belong to me after all. Bitch of it was, the leg was still attached when the birds ate it." The tears spurting through my lashes shame and shock me. They're also precious drops of moisture that I try to capture on my tongue, a futile effort that makes Hank's eyes crinkle with contempt. But the tears produce more tears, and after that, words that are old and dreadfully familiar. I'm sorry, so sorry. I won't do it again. I promise I'll stop. I won't kill anyone else. Hanks cocks his head, perplexed and peeved looking. Then he stands up, his creased face sad, avuncular, and kicks me in the head. When my vision clears, Hanks has been over me, studying my face, while a black ant the size of a paperclip navigates the roots of his forehead. You misunderstood me, he said, as though there's been a slight, inconsequential interruption in our conversation. My purpose isn't to stop you from killing. It's what you do, and you're good at it, gifted even. He gestures toward the trees with his cane, and the vultures roosting their stir, hissing softly, their naked necks stretching and curving into question marks. Not here, though. Not anymore. From now on, yours are the deserts of the interior lands, the hellscapes of your creation. Deserts so vast you can wander for eons before finding someone to kill or to fuck. But don't worry, you won't be alone. After you left her this morning, someone helped Opal take a sheet into the bathroom and showed her how to hang herself from the shower curtain. She could be free now, but she'd rather be angry. She wants revenge for what you did to her, and she's still so very thirsty. He gazes around at the skeletal trees with their dark, restless fruit and lifts up the cane. At once the vultures, hissing, growls louder. Unnatural, imperative, some of them take to the air, swooping so low that I can feel the foul breeze from their passing rustle my hair. I know there is very little time. The people you met in the desert, I blurt out. Maisie and Claude, did they talk about you? Of course they did, but don't worry about your mama and daddy too much. They were head to their own desert anyway. You just sent them there sooner. Hank's grin is inhumanely wide. His mouth creaks open like a rusty-hinged crypt and belches forth a bevy of soft, struggling things, tarring and mooing, that flee into the darkening sky and are plucked from the air by the vultures. They are the souls of the lost and the damned, and I know one of them is my own. Safe journeys, he says, before his face is obscured beneath a barrage of obsidian wings and stabbing beaks. When my screaming stops and I risk opening my eyes, the sun is still setting and constellations unknown to mortal astronomers swarm in the dome of a blazing red sky. I'm alone in a Joshua Tree forest, and a few yards away an assembly of vultures is squabbling over the remains of my foot. Hanks is gone, but his cane lies within reach. The birds bolt down their feast and take to the air, one by one, as a woman's voice, familiar and piteous, cries out for water. She sounds as near as my heartbeat and as far away as the other side of the moon. After a while, I pick up the cane and start hobbling along, knowing I have all eternity to find her. The Nimble Men, Glenn Hirschberg. But the air, out there, so wild, so white. Thomas St. John Bartlett, in a letter to Robert Louis Stevenson, from the Orkney Islands in the winter of 1901. Ever notice how Sadie, played in the dark at just the right volume, can tilt the whole world? That night, I had Jete Woo on the tiny cockpit stereo, and even before the snow, the pines at the edge of the great north woods just beyond the taxiway appeared to dip and lean, and the white lines disappearing beneath the wheels of our little commuter seemed to weave around and between each other like children at a wedding dance, as we made our way to the de-icing station. Then the snow started, white and winking, a drizzle of starlight, and even the air traffic control tower looked ready to lift its arms and step off its foundations and sway. And then Alex, my junior co-pilot of 4 months, opened his thermal lunchbox. The reek flooded the cabin and set the panel lights wavering in my watering eyes. I swear to God, the iPod gagged. Alex just sat in the steam, eyes half closed and grinning as if he were taking a sauna. God, you Gorby, tell me that isn't poutine. Want some, old dude? Said Alex and lifted the container from the cooler. Out the front of the plane, the world went on dancing and the snow whirled through it, but I couldn't stop staring at the mess in Alex's container. A few limp, bloated French fries stuck out of the lava flow of industrial-colored sludge like petrified slugs. Congealed gray lumps clung to their sides and leaked white pus. "Is that meat?" I asked. "Cheese?" Alex grinned wider. "It's your country, you tell me. Where'd you even find it?" "We had, 3 hours? Where does one even find poutine on a 3-hour layover in Prince Willowstown, Ontario?" "If you turn over control of the stereo, I'll put it away for a while." We had reached the de-icing station, and I pushed on the brakes and brought the coasting plane to a rolling stop. No matter how many times I did this, I was always surprised by the dark out here. At every other point, within 2 miles of this tiny airport, man-made light flooded and mapped the world, but not here. I peered through the windscreen and the wavering skeins of snow. It took a few moments, but eventually my eyes adjusted to the point where I could just make out the de-icer truck parked a few meters off the taxiway, in the flat dead grass. Weirdly, it had its boom already hoisted, as though we were meant to make our way into the field to get sprayed. I couldn't see either the driver of the truck or the guy on the enclosed platform at the top of the boom, because both were blanketed in shadow, but the platform looked tilted to me, almost chin to chest, with a rotating metal stand that supported it. It reminded me of one of the dead Martians from War of the Worlds. We sat and waited. The truck didn't move. "Peculiar," I murmured, and Alex passed his poutine container right under my nostrils. My eyes watered, and I turned on him. "What was that for?" "You were muttering, old dude. Just making sure you were conscious. Now about control of that stereo. You ready to deal?" For answer, I clicked on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We hope all 6 of you have settled comfortably in your seats, that your luggage is crammed effectively between your knees and the seat in front of you." Alex snorted at that. "And we look forward to having virtually no time to serve you during our brief skip-hop to Toronto. We will be cleared for takeoff shortly. In the meantime, sit back, relax, be happy this flight is not bound for Winnipeg. And please pay no attention to the gigantic alien-shaped creature about to swoop down upon us. It comes in peace to de-ice the wings. Also, we do apologize for the odor escaping into the cabin under the doors of our cockpit. It came with my co-pilot, and I'm afraid there's little we can do about it. If you need assistance of any kind, please don't hesitate to call on Jamie, our charismatic, experienced, and resourceful in-flight technician, at any time. We should be in the air shortly." Alex laughed. "Come out with me tonight," he said. "Let's do Hogtown." "Do it? Paint it, rock it, suck it dry. Come on, old dude." "You keep saying you'll let me show you my Toronto. I say it's time. You told me it's been 3 years, right? It's whoa. What was that?" He had his cap turned backward on his head, the container in his lap, and gravy-soaked French fry halfway to his lips. But the 1,000th time in the past 4 months, but the first tonight, I remembered how much I liked him. "I think we just painted Prince Willowstown, young pulp. Milked it, licked it, Whole works. You're babbling again, old dude. Northern Lights, Alex. You've heard of them, maybe? He shook his head. Wrong time, right? Also, too low. As usual, he was correct on both counts. I turned back to the windscreen, peering down the tarmac toward the tops of the trees, where we'd both seen a spiraling flash of green, then aquamarine. But there was nothing now except the snowflakes settling in their millions onto the branches of the pines as though completing some massive unmarked winter migration. We watched that a while, and then I glanced back again toward the de-icing truck. It sat silent, and the snow shrouded the high platform's window glass. The Nimble Men, said Alex, savoring the words. What? It's not the coolest name you've ever heard for their roar, or what? The Nimble Men? It's catchy, no? How many other names do you know, Alex? Well, there's Chasmata. That's from ancient Rome. They thought the lights were cave mouths for sky caves. Come on, old dude. Trump me. What you got? I would have smiled if not for the de-icer hunkered in the dead grass like a junk car on a lawn. Well, there's one story, I said. That's the old dude I know. Lay it on me. There are several versions. Usually it goes that sometime during the Depression, a poor woodsman went out in those woods. Those woods right there? Whichever Ontario woods you happen to be closest to. Didn't anyone ever tell you a ghost story? Alex nodded. Carry on. So the woodsman was out. This time I did smile. Rockin' the forest. That earned me a salute with a sludgy fry. And while he was out, he saw the lights. The Nimble Men, said Alex. I held up a finger, but not in the sky, in the trees. The woodsman had an inkling. He raced home. When he got there, his wife said their old sick dog had got out, and their daughter had gotten frantic and gone after him. The dog came back, but the daughter didn't. She was never seen again. The woodsman went looking with his lantern every night for the rest of his life, but he never found so much as a trace. According to some, he's still looking, and those are his lights. Hey, Alex, I don't like this. He'd been nodding and chewing, but now lowered the cardboard fry boat back into his lunchbox and wiped his hands on his uniform pants. You're right, old dude. Why are we just sitting here? I flicked on the radio and called the tower. This is Northwoods, Air 284. The response was immediate. The voice was clear. It might have come from inside the cabin. Northwoods, 284, go ahead. Bill, that you? What is it, Wayne? We're at the de-icer. The de-icer isn't moving. I don't know what I expected. We'll wake him up, maybe, or how's that? Or, since Bill had a little of Alex's puckishness, moon him. Instead, there was a long silence. It was about to repeat myself when Bill's voice came back. Sit tight, he said. Don't move. What? I started, and the link closed, went off. I tried talking into the communicator again, but it was like yelling into a fist. Hey, another one, Alex said, but by the time I turned, there was just the faintest blue streak, a smear on the snow curtain. On normal nights, the de-icer springs awake the second a plane rolls to a stop. The truck maneuvers close, and the driver makes contact over the comm link. The pilot shuts down all systems and closes the vents so no fluid gets inside the cabin. Then the platform jockey swoops in with his pod, unfolds its nozzle arms, and engulfs the wings in a blast of bright purple antifreeze. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes, sometimes less than 2. But we'd already been here quite a while. I could make out the platform jockey now, or at least his shadow. He was hunched or slumped in his pod 15 meters off the ground. I couldn't see his face because he had nothing illuminated. I couldn't hear his voice because the truck hadn't plugged into us and made contact. As far as I could tell, the truck still wasn't running its engine. This time the glimmer on the trees flashed red, and the redness hung a moment at the very edge of the forest before winking out. See, I don't get it, Alex said. It doesn't make sense. That's what your story, I mean. What's the deal, old dude? The lights came to warn him, or they're his daughter's soul at the moment of her death, or presentiment of his future as the wood-wandering lantern guy? You've got to get more specific here. The lack of movement on the taxiway was really starting to get to me. I almost clicked on the intercom and called Jamie in to take a look, but that would only have triggered a new round of Alex hits on Jamie. Not that Jamie seemed to mind. It's not my story, and the lights were probably all of those things, depending on the telling, I said. You know how those stories work. I know that one could work better. What does he mean? Sit tight, don't move? Let's go see, Alex said, unhooked himself from his belt and stood. That at least drew my gaze from the trailway to his face. Go where? Out. Tell me you've never wanted to go out there. You ever done it? We've got a perfect excuse. We can't go out there. Why not? I thought about that. Aren't there regulations? They've got to be regulations. And yet, there you are, already unhooking your belt. His grin was an 8-year-old's and lit him all the way to his moppy curls, and there I was, unhooking my belt. Old dude, he said approvingly. Then he threw open the cockpit door and marched into the tiny cabin of our commuter plane, chanting, "Oh, Jamie!" By the time I emerged, he was standing as if on stage with his arm around our blonde, too thin flight attendant, who was without doubt closer to my age than his, and facing our 6 passengers. All of them were apparently traveling alone, since they'd each claimed their own row. We called them rows, though they were really only sets of single seats on either side of the narrow aisle, leaving only the front empty. "What's going on?" called an exhausted-looking grad school type in a green McGill sweatshirt from a couple rows back. "Who's up for hide and seek? Come on, I'll count 10, Alex said, and Jamie dropped her head and shook it and laughed. "Excuse him, ladies and gentlemen," I said. "He's American. He's just eaten his first poutine and it's made him punchy." "Avez-vous poutine?" said a white-haired woman 3 rows back, perking up as though she thought we might offer her a plateful with her complimentary ice water. "Je l'ai fini," Alex said, panting his non-existent gut. I couldn't see his face, but I was sure he'd winked. I moved to the door, unlocked it, and Jamie swung toward me in surprise. "Wayne!" I made a waving gesture, casual as I could make it. "We're just checking something," Alex said. "Right back, y'all." "Checking," I said quietly to Jamie. "It's not the plane, not to worry." Before she could ask, and before I had time to reconsider, Alex pushed the door outward. Frigid, resin-scented air gushed into the cabin, sweeping tendrils of snow around our ankles as the folding stair lowered itself to the ground. Jamie took an immediate step back because of the cold. I realized only the cold, but Alex hesitated too, just momentarily. In 31 years as a pilot, I'd never once left my plane except at a gate. Certainly not on a taxiway or runway. I stared into the blackness, the snow cocooning the world. A high industrial wine road. The air current seemed to burrow uncomfortably into my ear canals. I glanced over my shoulder. The only passenger not watching was a chubby middle-aged guy in the seat closest to the open door. He had his head against the window, his tie still knotted tight at his throat. His eyes closed too tightly to be sleeping. At least, that's how it seemed to me. His skin looked pale and wet as the window glass. He okay?" I murmured to Jamie. She shrugged. "He's been like that since we boarded. I don't think he's having a heart attack or anything, if that's what you're asking. Are you okay, Wayne? This doesn't seem..." "You're right," I said. "Hey, Alex, why don't we just go check in with Bill again?" "Because, old dude," he said, "we're the nimble men. and with his hands artfully tucked in the pockets of his ridiculous thrift store bomber jacket, he strolled out of the plane down the steps to the tarmac. Why did I go? I've wondered that ever since. Because the lifeless de-icer bothered me, sure, because Alex's enthusiasm for everything had stirred the embers of my own. Dead not so long then, but there was something else. A need. Sudden, overpowering. Was it mine? I still don't know. Went down the steps behind me. I heard a single saw-edged gasp or sigh from the not sleeping guy. I heard another sound too, or thought I did. That high electrical whine, though we were the only plane out here. When I reached Alex's side, he smiled. One small step for nimble men. To my surprise, I smiled back. See, now you're doing it. Doing what? Are the lights the nimblemen? Are we? You know, you're the coolest pilot I'm ever going to work with in my life, right, old dude? You know you've ruined cockpit chatter for me forever. Why, thank you, Alex. Sometimes I feel the same. When we get back inside, could we at least put on a gymnopedi? One of the Nocenes? Now I stared at him. You know Sadie too? I know Je t'ai vu makes you morose. For a punk kid, you know a hell of a lot of things, Alex. That's what things are for, right? Some things, I said, and immediately wished I hadn't. Hey, man, Alex said. Ignoring him, trying to ignore myself, I looked across the tarmac at the de-icer. There really didn't seem to be anybody in the truck. There was someone on the platform up there, all right, but as far as I could make out, he still hadn't even noticed us. Unless the driver had left his keys in the ignition or we could find a good stone to throw, we were going to have a hard time getting the platform jockey's attention. The whining was louder out here too, or not louder, closer, more shrill. If it hadn't been January, I'd have thought there were gnats in my ears. Jamie's low-heeled shoes clicked on the folding staircase and she appeared between us. Alex put his arms around her. Lights blossomed in the closest treetops, a scatter of turquoise and Kelly green and deep pink, as though someone had scattered a handful of marbles up there. The branches rippled with the color, then swallowed it. Jesus, said Jamie. Alex put an arm around her waist. Wacky North Woods beautifulness, my favorite kind. Is that ice, do you think? Airport lights reflecting on the branches? Of course, that was right. Why hadn't I thought of it? I gestured back toward the plane. Seriously, is that guy alright? I asked the passenger in 2B. I think mostly he's crying, said Jamie. I've got my eye on him. I know you do. We shouldn't be out here, Wayne. She touched my hand. Go inside. We'll be right back. More lights. A royal blue flurry this time, concentrated in the pines nearest the taxiway. Maybe 30 meters away, up in the platform pod, I could see the jockey's shadow just a little more clearly through the snow. He was turned toward the forest. I still didn't think he'd seen us. Unease flickered through me again. It felt almost good. It filled the emptiness, or at least colored it. As if sensing that thought, Jamie squeezed my hand. I'd worked with her a long time. I squeezed back. Go on inside. We're coming. You can offer white here and there the rest of my poutine, Alex said. I didn't actually finish it all, although it's kind of cold now. Bleh, said Jamie, and turned for the plane. I saw her look backward at the woods as she climbed up. Maybe she was hoping for another light show, but I had the idea she was hoping the opposite. Maybe that was just me. The whining swelled still more. Underneath the shrillness, I could hear another sound now. A sort of low grinding. Then that faded. I lifted my hands over my head, waved them at the de-icer platform. Next, I tried jumping up and down. See? Said Alex. You're still nimble. You know she digs you, right? I stopped jumping. What? Jamie, she's just waiting for you to say the word. She's been waiting a long time. What are you talking about? She told you this? She didn't have to tell me. I know. It's one of those things Alex knows. Let's get that guy's attention and get out of here, I said. I'm just telling you, she's waiting for you to say you're ready. I say it's been 3 years, old dude. And no disrespect, but I say 3 years is plenty. I say you're ready. Shit. It came from nowhere, wasn't anything, vanished just as quickly. A flash of green-yellow right over our heads, like lightning stabbing into the ground or eyes blinking. Did you hear that? Hear it? You have ears in your eyes, old dude? Hey, I said, our breath plumed in front of us. He moved. Both of us craned our necks back, trying to see. The guy up there had moved. I was sure of it. But he'd stopped now, and he was still staring straight at the woods. The whining was creeping deeper into the ears again. And there was yet another sound, this one more familiar, but several blank seconds passed before I realized what it was. That truck is on, I said. Well, said Alex, and for the first time, I heard doubt in his voice too, just a flicker, but that rattled me more than anything else out here. If it won't come to us, I guess we just go to it. He started that way and I followed, and the driver in the cab finally sat up. He looked astonished to see us. Then he started flinging his hands wildly in front of his face as though he had bees in there. What the fuck? Alex mumbled, still moving, and I grabbed his wrist. The driver was waving more wildly, but not at anything in the cabin. He was also shouting, but he had the windows rolled up tight, and all I could hear was that he was shouting, not what he was saying. And overhead that sound had returned, not so much louder as higher, almost a shriek. The grounding was back, too. Alex and I were halfway between the de-icer truck and our plane, right at the edge of the tarmac. It didn't actually sound like grinding, I realized. It seemed too deep-lodged inside my own head for that. It sounded like teeth gnashing. The lights didn't exactly erupt from the trees. They just slid from behind them, as though they'd been hiding there all along. They hovered at the edge of the forest, coagulating like snow melt on a window pane, forming. I didn't have to warn Alex. He was already running. Of course he was decades younger, much faster. Maybe he didn't even see what the lights became. The thing with wings, or the million smaller things, all of them shining. They came like a blizzard on a glacier, all at once and from everywhere. I was flat out sprinting, but knew I wouldn't make it. They were in my hair, ears, eyes, and they ached. It was useless to swipe at or fight them, but I was still running anyway until the first blast from the de-icer blew me straight off my feet. The icer didn't stop. It went on pummeling me with fluid, and I started to scream, then shut my mouth tight for fear of what I'd swallow. Liquid or light, and tried scrambling back upright. Then I gave that up and crawled. The lights were screaming, or I was, or Alex and Jamie were from the doorway of the plane, both of them soaked, dripping, waving, shouting. I reached the steps, and the gnashing got louder, seemed to clamp down on my spine and chew straight through it, and I sagged bonelessly sideways, feeling light, so light. Then Alex yanked me inside and slammed the door tight. For one long moment there was only darkness and silence because I hadn't opened my eyes. I realized. Because I was too terrified to open my mouth, I felt a towel on my face, Jamie's gentle hand against the back of my neck. I opened my eyes to find Alex dripping purple droplets everywhere like a freshly bathed poodle. Okay, he said. I nodded, trembling. I think. You? He started to laugh. Holy shit, he said. Holy crazy Canadian shit. It wasn't funny, but with Alex there, you couldn't help smiling anyway. Jamie was doing it too, while pointlessly patting over and over at my face. I took her hand to stop her. Then I just held on to that. We were back in our seats, our heads wrapped in scratchy airline towels, ears still ringing, hands still shaking, but settled firmly on the controls that would guide us either safely back to the terminal or up in the air and as far from Prince Willowstown as this plane's pathetic fuel tanks could carry us. When the cockpit door opened, Alex was the one who turned. Then he said, "Wayne?" I turned too. Jamie stood in the doorway, face waxy, eyes blank. "He's gone," she said. "What?" I asked. "The guy in 2B, the crying guy, he's not on the plane. He didn't go out past me either. He's nowhere." I stood up, shaking my head. "That's ridiculous. He must have—" "Wayne," Jamie said, and her eyes filled with tears. "He's gone." It happened only occasionally. Bill told me once, years later, over one final round of Molson's before both of us left the flying game for good. Only in the dead of winter on the coldest nights. Mostly not even then. No one really knew when or how the realization had been made about the de-icing fluid, but that seemed to help. Sometimes, to keep them back, sometimes. "Always so sad," Bill had said. "Always, always, always." At least, that's what I thought he'd said. It wasn't until that night, back in my hotel, pouring a drink, that my hands started to shake and I realized I'd heard him wrong. Not so sad. The sad. Always the sad. Was it grief that drew them? Or reacted with something else in that air? Or those woods and created them? Had my grief drawn or created them? If so, it wasn't the antifreeze that saved me. It was the sobbing man. His was fresher. Had they swallowed him? I like to think he was one of them now instead. Reunited, maybe, with what he'd lost, or at least in company with the Nimbleman. Sometimes that thought comforts me. You can't fly to Prince Willowstown anymore. Not long after that night, they closed the facility, redirecting all traffic to the bigger, better serviced airport at Sudbury, where the light towers are numerous and brighter, and the trees keep their distance. Little America, Dan Camp. First of all, here are the highways of America. Here are the states in sky blue, pink, pale green, with black lines running across them. Peter has a children's version of the map, which he follows as they drive. He places an X by the names of towns they pass by, though most of the ones on his old map aren't there anymore. He sits staring at the little cartoons of each state's products and services: corn, oil, wells, cattle, skiers. Secondly, here is Mr. Breeze himself. Here he is behind the steering wheel of the long old Cadillac. His delicate hands are thin, reddish, as if chapped. He wears a white shirt, buttoned at the wrist and neck. His thinning hair is combed neatly over his scalp. His thin skeleton head is smiling. He is bright and gentle and lively, like one of the hosts of the children's programs Peter used to watch on the television. He widens his eyes and enunciates his words when he speaks. Third is Mr. Breeze's pistol. It is a Glock 19, 9mm compact semi-automatic handgun, Mr. Breeze says. It rests enclosed in the glove box directly in front of Peter, and he imagines that it is sleeping. He pictures the muzzle, the hole where the bullet comes out, a closed eye that might open at any moment. Outside the abandoned gas station, Mr. Breeze stands with skeleton head cocked, listening to the faintly creaking hinge of an old sign that advertises cigarettes. His face is expressionless, and so is the face of the gas station storefront. The windows are broken and patched with pieces of cardboard, and there is some trash, some paper cups and leaves and such dancing in a ring on the oil-stained asphalt. The pumps are just standing there, dumbly. "Hello?" Mr. Breeze calls after a moment very loudly. "Anyone home?" He lifts the arm of a nozzle from its cradle on the side of the pump and tries it. He pulls the trigger that makes the gas come out of the hose, but nothing happens. Peter walks alongside Mr. Breeze, holding Mr. Breeze's hand, peering at the road ahead. He uses his free hand to shade his eyes against the low, late afternoon sun. A little ways down are a few houses and some dead trees, a row of boxcars sitting on a railroad track, a grain elevator with its belfry rising above the leafless branches of elms. In a newspaper machine is a USA Today from August 6, 2012, which was, Peter thinks, about 2 years ago, maybe. He can't quite remember. It doesn't look like anyone lives here anymore, Peter says at last, and Mr. Breeze regards him for a long moment in silence. At the motel, Peter lies on the bed, face down, and Mr. Breeze binds his hands behind him with a plastic tie. "Is this too tight?" Mr. Breeze says, just as he does every time, very concerned and courteous. And Peter shakes his head. "No," he says, and he can feel Mr. Breeze adjusting his ankles so that they are parallel. He stays still as Mr. Breeze ties the laces of his tennis shoes together. "You know that this is not the way that I want things to be," Mr. Breeze says, as he always does. "It's for your own good." Peter just looks at him with what Mr. Breeze refers to as his inscrutable gaze. "Would you like me to read to you?" Mr. Breeze asks. "Would you like to hear a story?" "No, thank you," Peter says. In the morning, there is a noise outside. Peter is on top of the covers, still in his jeans and t-shirt and tennis shoes, still tied up, and Mr. Breeze is beneath the covers in his pajamas, and they both wake with a start. Beyond the window, there is a terrible racket. It sounds like they are fighting or possibly killing something. There is some yelping and snarling and anguish, and Peter closes his eyes as Mr. Breeze gets out of bed and springs across the room on his lithe feet to retrieve the gun. "Shh," Mr. Breeze says, and mouths silently, "Don't you move." He shakes his finger at Peter. "No, no, no," and then smiles and makes a little bow before he goes out the door of the motel with his gun at the ready. Alone in the motel room, Peter lies breathing on the cheap bed, his face down and pressed against the old polyester bedspread, which smells of mildew and ancient tobacco smoke. He flexes his fingers. His nails, which were once long and black and sharp, have been filed down to the quick by Mr. Breeze. For his own good, Mr. Breeze had said. But what if Mr. Breeze doesn't come back? What then? He will be trapped in this room. He will strain against the plastic ties on his wrists. He will kick and kick his bound feet. He will wriggle off the bed and pull himself to the door and knock his head against it. But there will be no way out. It will be very painful to die of hunger and thirst, he thinks. After a few minutes, Peter hears a shot, a dark firecracker echo that startles him and makes him flinch. Then Mr. Breeze opens the door. "Nothing to worry about," Mr. Breeze says. "Everything's fine." For a while, Peter had worn a leash and collar. The skin side of the collar had round metal nubs that touched Peter's neck and would give him a shock if Mr. Breeze touched a button on the little transmitter he carried. "This is not how I want things to be," Mr. Breeze told him. "I want us to be friends. I want you to think of me as a teacher or an uncle." "Show me that you're a good boy," Mr. Breeze said, "and I won't make you wear that anymore." In the beginning, Peter had cried a lot, and he had wanted to get away, but Mr. Breeze wouldn't let him go. Mr. Breeze had Peter wrapped up tight and tied in a sleeping bag with just his head sticking out, wriggling like a worm in a cocoon, like a baby trapped in its mother's stomach. Even though Peter was nearly 12 years old, Mr. Breeze held him in his arms and rocked him and sang old songs under his breath and whispered, "Shh, shh, shh." It's okay. It's okay, Mr. Breeze said. Don't be afraid, Peter. I'll take care of you. They're in the car again now, and it is raining. Peter leans against the window on the passenger side, and he can see the droplets of water inching along the glass, moving like schools of minnows, and he can see the clouds with their gray, foggy fingerlings almost touching the ground, and the trees bowed down and dripping. Peter, Mr. Breeze says, after an hour or more of silence, have you been watching your map? Do you know where we are? And Peter gazes down at the book Mr. Breeze had given him. Here are the highways, the states in their pale primary colors, Nebraska, Wyoming. And Peter gazes down at the book. I think we're almost halfway there, Mr. Breeze says. He looks at Peter, and his cheerful children's program eyes are careful. You could see him thinking something besides what he is saying. There is a way that an adult can look into you to see if you are paying attention, to see if you are learning, and Mr. Breeze's eyes scope across him, prodding and nudging. It's a nice place, Mr. Breeze says. A very nice place. You'll have a room of your own, a warm bed to sleep in, good food to eat, and you'll go to school. I think you'll like it. Peter says and shudders. They are passing a cluster of houses now, some of them burned and still smoldering in the rain. There are no people left in those houses, Peter knows. They are all dead. He can feel it in his bones. He can taste it in his mouth. Also out beyond the town, in the fields of sunflowers and alfalfa, there are a few who are like him, kids. They are padding stealthily along the rows of crops, their palms and footsoles pressing lightly along the loamy earth, leaving almost no track. They lift their heads, and their golden eyes glint. I had a boy once, Mr. Breeze says. They have been driving without stopping for hours now, listening to a tape of a man, and some children singing B-I-N-G-O. They are singing Bingo was his name. A son, Mr. Breeze says. He wasn't so much older than you. His name was Jim. Mr. Breeze moves his hands vaguely against the steering wheel. He was a rock hound, Mr. Breeze says. He liked all kinds of stones and minerals. Geodes he loved, and fossils. He had a big collection of those. Peter says. It is hard to picture Mr. Breeze as a father, with his gaunt head and stick body and puppet mouth. It is hard to imagine what Mr. Breeze must have looked like. Would she have been a skeleton like him, with a long black dress and long black hair, a spidery way of walking? Maybe she was his opposite, a plump young farm girl, blonde and ruddy-cheeked, smiling and cooking things in the kitchen like pancakes. Maybe Mr. Breeze is just making it up. He probably didn't have a wife or son at all. What was your wife's name? Peter says at last, and Mr. Breeze is quiet for a long time. The rain slows, then stops as the mountains grow more distinct in the distance. Connie, Mr. Breeze says. Her name was Connie. By nightfall, they have passed Cheyenne, a bad place, Mr. Breeze says, not safe, and they are nearly to Laramie, which has, Mr. Breeze says, a good organized militia and a high fence around the perimeter of the city. Peter can see Laramie from a long way off. The trunks of the light poles are as thick and tall as sequoias, and at their top a cluster of halogen lights, a screaming of brightness, and Peter knows he doesn't want to go there. His arms and legs begin to itch, and he scratches with his sore, clipped nails, even though it hurts just to touch them to skin. Stop that, please, Peter, Mr. Breeze says softly, and when Peter doesn't stop, he reaches over and gives Peter a flick on the nose with his finger. Stop! Mr. Breeze says. Right now. There are blinking yellow lights ahead where a barrier has been erected, and Mr. Breeze slows the Cadillac as two men merge from behind a structure made of logs and barbed wire and pieces of cars that have been sharpened into points. The men are soldiers of some kind, carrying rifles, and they shine a flashlight in through the windshield at Peter and Mr. Breeze. Behind them, the high chain fence makes shadow patterns across the road as it moves in the wind. Mr. Breeze puts the car into park and reaches across and takes the gun from its resting place in the glove box. The men are approaching slowly, and one of them says very loudly, "Step out of the car, please, sir." And Mr. Breeze touches his gun to Peter's leg. "Be a good boy, Peter," Mr. Breeze whispers. "Don't you try to run away, or they will shoot you." Then Mr. Breeze puts on his broad, bright puppet smile. He takes out his wallet and opens it so the men can see his identification, so they can see the gold seal of the United States of America, the glinting golden stars. He opens his door and steps out. The gun is tucked into the waistband of his pants, and he holds his hands up loosely, displaying the wallet. He shuts the door with a thunk, leaving Peter sealed inside the car. There is no handle on the passenger side of the car, so Peter cannot open his door. If he wanted to, he could slide across to the driver's seat and open Mr. Breeze's door and roll out onto the pavement and try to scramble as fast as he could into the darkness, and maybe he could run fast enough zigzagging so that the bullets they'd shoot would only nip the ground behind him. And he could find his way into some kind of brush or forest and run until the voices and the lights were far in the distance. But the men were watching him very closely. One man is holding his flashlight so that the beam shines directly through the windshield and onto Peter's face. And the other man is staring at Peter as Mr. Breeze speaks and gestures like a performer on television who is selling something for kids. But the man is shaking his head no. "No. I don't care what kind of papers you got, mister," the man says. "There is no way you're bringing that thing through these gates." Peter used to be a real boy. He can remember it. A lot of it is still very clear in his mind. "I pledge allegiance to the flag," and "Knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone, this old man goes rolling home," and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now when I know my ABCs, next time won't you sing with me? And yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away, and he remembers the house with the big trees in front, riding a scooter along the sidewalk, his foot pumping and making momentum. The bug in a jar, cicada, coming out of its shell on the green wings. His mom and her two braids. The cereal in a bowl, pouring milk on it. His dad, flat on the carpet, climbing on his dad's back. Dog pile! He could still read the letters, come together and make sounds in his mind. When Mr. Breeze asked him, he found he could still say his telephone number and address and names of his parents. "Mark and Rebecca Krolick," he said. 2134 Overlook Boulevard, South Bend, Indiana, 46601. "Very good," Mr. Breeze said. "Wonderful." And then Mr. Breeze said, "Where are they now, Peter? Do you know where your parents are?" Mr. Breeze pulls back from the barricade of Laramie, and the gravel sputters out from the tires, and in the rearview mirror, Peter can see the men with their guns and the red taillights and dust. "Damn it," Mr. Breeze says, and slaps his hand against the dashboard. "Damn it! I knew I should have put you in the trunk." And Peter says nothing. He has never seen Mr. Breeze angry in this way, and it frightens him. The red splotches on Mr. Breeze's skin, the scent of adult rage, though he is also relieved to be moving away from those big halogen lights. He keeps his eyes straight ahead and his hands folded in his lap. and he listens to the silence of Mr. Breeze unraveling. He listens to the highway moving beneath them, and watches up as the yellow dotted lines at the center of the road are pulled endlessly beneath the car. For a while, Peter pretends that they are eating the yellow lines. After a time, Mr. Breeze seems to calm. "Peter," he says, 2 + 2. 4, Peter says softly. 4 and 4. 8. 8 and 8. 16, Peter says, and he could see Mr. Breeze's face in the bluish light that glows from the speedometer. It is the cold profile of a portrait, like the pictures of people that are on money. There's the sound of the tires, the sound of the velocity. "You know," Mr. Breeze says at last, "I don't believe that you are not human." Peter says. He thinks this over. It's a complicated sentence, more complicated than math, and he's not sure he knows what it means. His hands rest in his lap, and he can feel his poor clipped nails tingling as if they were still there. Mr. Breeze said that after a while he will hardly remember them, but Peter doesn't think this is true. "When we have children," Mr. Breeze says, "they don't come out like this. They come out like you, Peter, and some of them even less like us than you are. It's been that way for a few years now. But I have to believe that these children, at least some of these children, aren't really so different because they are part of us, aren't they? They feel things, they experience emotions, they are capable of learning and reason." "I guess," Peter says, because he isn't sure what to say. There's a kind of look an adult will give you when they want you to agree with them, and it is like a collar they put on you with their eyes, and you can feel the little nubs against your neck, where the electricity will come out. Of course, he is not like Mr. Breeze, nor the men that held the guns at the gates of Laramie. It would be silly to pretend, but this is what Mr. Breeze seems to want. "Maybe," Peter says, and he watches as they pass a green luminescent sign with a white arrow that says "Exit." He can remember the time that his first tooth came out, and he put it under his pillow in a tiny bag that his mother had made for him, which said "Tooth Fairy." But then the teeth began to come out very quickly after that, and the sharp ones came in. Not like mother or father's teeth, and the fingernails began to thicken, and the hairs on his forearms and chin and back, and his eyes changed color. "Tell me," says Mr. Breeze, "you didn't hurt your parents, did you? You loved them, right? Your mom and dad?" After that, they are quiet again. They are driving and driving, and the darkness of the mountain roads closes in around them. The shadows of the pine trees fussing with their roommates. The grim shadows of solid, staring boulders. The shadows of clouds lapping across the moon. "You loved them, right?" Peter leans his head against the passenger window and closes his eyes for a moment, listening to the radio as Mr. Breeze moves the knob slowly across the dial. Static, static, static. Man, crying, static, static, very distant Mexican music fading in and out, static. Man preaching fervidly, static, static, and then silence as Mr. Breeze turns it off. And Peter keeps his eyes closed, tries to breathe slow and heavy like a sleeping person does. "You love them, right?" And Mr. Breeze is whispering under his breath, a long stream of wisps, nothing recognizable. When Peter wakes, it's almost daylight. They are parked at a rest stop. Peter can see the sign that says Wagon Hound Rest Area. Sitting in a pile of white rocks, he can see the outlines of the little buildings. One for men, one for women, and there is some graffiti painted against the brick. "For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son." And the garbage cans tipped over and strewn about, the many fast food bags ripped open and torn apart and licked clean, and then the remnants licked again later. Hopefully, and the openings of the crushed soda cans tested. hopefully, and the other detritus examined, sniffed those scattered. There's a sound nearby. Sounds, a few of them, creeping closer. An old plastic container is being nosed along the asphalt, prodded for whatever dried bit of sugar might still adhere to the interior. Peter hears it. It rolls. Thunk, 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 then stops. One has picked it up. One is eyeing it. The hardened bit of cola at the bottom. He hears the crunch of teeth against the plastic bottle, and then the sound of loud licking and mastication. And then one is coming near to the car, where he and Mr. Breeze are supposed to be sleeping. One leaps up onto the front of the Cadillac, naked on all fours, and lets out a long stream of pee onto the hood of the car. The car bounces as the boy lands on it, and there is the thick, splattering sound, and then the culprit bounds away. That shakes Mr. Breeze awake. He jerks up, scrabbling, and briefly Peter can see Mr. Breeze's real face. Hard-eyed and teeth bared, nothing kindly, nothing from television, nothing like a friendly puppet. And Mr. Breeze clutches his gun and swings it in a circle around the car. "What the fuck?" Mr. Breeze says. For a minute, he breathes like an animal in tight, short gasps. He points his gun at the windows, front, back, and both sides. Peter makes himself small in the passenger seat. Afterward, Mr. Breeze is unnerved. They start driving again right away, but Mr. Breeze doesn't put his gun in the glove box. He keeps it in his lap and pats it from time to time like it's a baby he wants to stay asleep. It takes him a while to compose himself. "Well," he says at last, and he gives Peter this thin-lipped smile. "That was a bad idea, wasn't it?" "I suppose so," Peter says. He watches as Mr. Breeze gives the gun a slow, comforting stroke. "Shh, there. Mr. Breeze's friendly face is back on now, but Peter can see how the fingertips are trembling. "You should have said something to me, Peter," Mr. Breeze says in a kindly but reproachful voice. Mr. Breeze raises an eyebrow. He frowns with mild disappointment. "You were asleep," Peter says and clears his throat. "I didn't want to wake you up." "That was very thoughtful of you," Mr. Breeze says, and Peter glances down at his map. He looks at the dots. Wamsutter, Bitter Creek, Rock Springs, Little America, Evanston. "How many of them were there, do you think, Peter?" Mr. Breeze says. "A dozen?" Peter shrugs. "A dozen means 12, Mr. Breeze says. "I know. So, do you think there were 12 of them, or more than 12 of them?" "I don't know," Peter says. "More than 12? "I should say so," Mr. Breeze says. "I would venture to guess that there were about 15 of them, Peter." And he is quiet for a little while, as if thinking about the numbers, and Peter thinks about them too. When he thinks about 1 dozen, he can picture a container of eggs. When he thinks about 15, he can picture 1 and 5 standing together, side by side, holding hands like brother and sister. "You're not like them, Peter," Mr. Breeze whispers. "I know you know that. You're not one of them, are you?" What is there to say? Peter stares down at his hands, at his sore-shaved fingernails. He runs his tongue along the points of his teeth. He feels the hard, broad muscles of his shoulders flex, the bristled hairs on his back rubbing uncomfortably against his t-shirt. "Listen to me," says Mr. Breeze, his voice soft and stern and deliberate. "Listen to me, Peter. You are a special boy. People like me travel all over the country looking for children just like you. You're different, and you know you are. These things back there at the rest stop, you're not like them. You know that, don't you?" After a time, Peter nods. "You love them, right?" Peter thinks, and he can feel his throat tighten. He hadn't meant to kill them, not really. Most of the time, he forgets that it happened, and even when he does remember, he can't recall why it happened. It was as if his mind was asleep for a while, and then when he woke up, there was the disordered house, as if a burglar had turned over every object, looking for treasure. His father's body was in the kitchen, and his mother's was in the bedroom. a lot of blood, a lot of scratches and bites on her, and he put his nose against her hair and smelled it. He lifted her limp hand and pressed the palm of it against his cheek and made it pet him. Then he made it hit him in the nose and the mouth. "Bad," he had whispered. "Bad, bad." "It's going to be better once we get to Salt Lake," Mr. Bree says. "It's a special school for children like you, and I know you're going to enjoy it so much. You're going to make a lot of new friends, and you're going to learn so much, too, about the world. You'll read books and work with a calculator and a computer, and you'll do some things with art and music. And there will be counselors there who will help you with your feelings, because the feelings are just feelings. They are like weather. They come and go. They're not you, Peter. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "Yes," Peter says. He stares out where the towering white-yellow butte cliffs have been cut through to make room for the road, and the metal guardrail unreels beside them, and the sky is glowing, empty blue. He blinks slowly. If he goes to this school, will they make him tell about his mom and dad? Maybe it will be all right. Maybe he will like it there. Maybe the other children will be mean to him, and the teachers won't like him either. Maybe he is special. Will his fingernails always hurt like this? Will they always have to be cut and filed? "Well, listen," Mr. Bree says. "We're coming up on a tunnel. It's called the Green River Tunnel. You can probably see it on your map, but I want to tell you that there have been some problems with these tunnels. It's easy to block the tunnels from either end once a car is inside it, so I'm going to speed up, and I'm going to go very, very fast when we get there, okay? I just want you to be prepared. I don't want you to get alarmed, okay?" "Okay," Peter says, and Mr. Bree smiles broadly and nods, and then without another word, they begin to accelerate. The guardrail begins to slip by faster and faster until it is nothing but a silver river of blur. And then the mouths of the tunnel appear before them. One for the left side of the road, one for the right. Maybe not mouths, but instead a pair of eyes, two black sockets beneath a rigid heel, and Peter can't help himself. He tightens his fingers against his legs, even though it hurts. When they pass beneath the concrete arches, there is a soft woof sound, as if they've gone through the membrane of something. And then suddenly there is darkness. He can sense the curved roof of the tunnel over them, a rib cage of dark against dark flickering overhead, and the echo of the car as it speeds up faster and faster. A long crescendo as the opening in the distance grows wider and wider, and the opening behind them grows smaller. But even as the car quickens, Peter can feel time slowing down, so that each rotation of the tire is like the click of a second hand of a clock. There are kids in the tunnel. 20? No, 30 maybe. He can sense the warm bodies of them as they flinch and scrabble up the walls of the tunnel. As they turn and begin to chase after the car's taillights, as they drop stones and bits of metal down from their perches somewhere in the tunnel's concrete rafters. "Yeah!" they call. "Yeah!" And their voices make Peter's fingers ache. In front of them, the whole of daylight spreads open brighter, a corona of whiteness, and Peter can only see the blurry shadow skeletons of the kids as they leap in front of the car. They must be going 100 miles an hour or more when they hit the boy. The boy may be 8 or 9, Peter can't tell. There is only the imprint of a contorted face and the cry he lets out, a thin, wiry body leaping. Then a heavy thump as the bumper connects with him, and a burst of blood blinds the windshield, and they hear the clunking tumble of the body across the roof of the car onto the pavement behind them. Mr. Breeze turns on the windshield wipers, and cleaning fluid squirts up as the wipers squeak across the glass. The world appears through the smeared arcs the wipers made. There is a great expanse of valley and hills and wide open sky. "We're getting very low on gas," Mr. Breeze says after they have driven for a while in silence. And Peter doesn't say anything. There's a place up ahead. It used to be safe, but I'm not sure if it's safe anymore. "Oh," Peter says. "You'll tell me if it's safe, won't you?" Yes, Peter says. It's called Little America. Do you know why? Mr. Breeze looks at him. His eyes are softly sad and he smiles just a little, wanly, and it's tragic, but it's also okay because that boy wasn't special, not like Peter is special. It is something to be left behind us, says Mr. Breeze's expression. Peter shrugs. It's very interesting, Mr. Breeze says, because there once was an explorer named Richard Byrd, and he went into Antarctica, which is a frozen country far to the south. And he made a base on the Ross Ice Shelf, south of the Bay of Whales, and he named his little base Little America. And so then later, much, much later, they made a motel in Wyoming, and because it was so isolated, they decided to call it by the same name. And they used a penguin as their mascot because penguins are from Antarctica, and when I was a kid, there were a lot of signs and billboards that made the place famous. Oh, Peter says, and he can't help but think of the kid saying, "Yeah!" They are driving along very slowly because it is still hard to see out the windshield, and the windshield wiper fluid has stopped working. It makes its mechanical sound, but no liquid comes out anymore. It is a kind of oasis, this place, this Little America. A great huge parking lot and many gas pumps and a store, and beyond that a motel with a green concrete dinosaur standing in the grass. A baby brontosaurus, a little taller than a man. It is the kind of landscape they like. The long, wide, strip mall buildings with their corridors of shelves. The cave-like concrete passageways of enormous interstate motels with their damp carpets and moldering beds. The little... Oh, where'd it go? The little alcoves where the ice machines and tall soda vendors may still be inexplicably running. The parking lots where the abandoned cars provide shelter and hiding places, better than a forest of trees. There are a lot of them around here, I think, Mr. Breeze says, as they settle in next to a pump. Above them, there is a kind of plastic metal canopy, and they sit for a while under its shade. Peter can sense that Mr. Breeze is uncertain. How many of them are there, do you think? Mr. Breeze says, very casually, and Peter closes his eyes. More than 100? Mr. Breeze says. Yes, Peter says, and looks at Mr. Breeze's face. Surreptitiously, and it is the face of a man who has to jump a long distance but does not want to. Yes, he says, more than 100. He can feel them. They are peering out from the travel center building and the windows of the boarded-up motel, and old abandoned cars in the parking lot. If I get out of the car and try to pump gas, will they come? Mr. Breeze says. Yes, Peter says. They will come very fast. Okay, Mr. Breeze says, and the two of them are silent for a long time. The face of Mr. Breeze is not the face of a television man or a skeleton or a puppet. It is the elusive face that adults give you when they are telling you a lie, for your own good. They think, when there's a big secret that they are sorry about. Always remember, Peter's mother said, I loved you, even... I want you to hold my gun, Mr. Breeze says. Do you think you can do that if they start coming? And Peter tries to look at his real face. Could it be said that Mr. Breeze loved him, even if? We won't make it to Salt Lake unless we get gas, Mr. Breeze says, and Peter watches as he opens the door of the car. Wait, Peter thinks. Peter had meant to ask Mr. Breeze about his son, about Jim, the rockhound. You killed him, didn't you? Peter had wanted to ask, and he expected that Mr. Breeze would have said yes. Mr. Breeze would have hesitated for a while, but then finally he would have told the truth because Mr. Breeze was the kind of person. And what about me? Peter wanted to ask. Would you kill me too? And Mr. Breeze would have said yes. Yes, of course, if I needed to, but you would never put me in that situation, would you, Peter? You aren't like the others, are you? Peter thinks of all this as Mr. Breeze steps out of the car. He can sense the other kids growing alert, with their long black nails and sharp teeth, with their swift jumping muscles and bristling hairs. He could see the soft, slow movement of Mr. Breeze's legs. How easy it would be to think, pray. How warm and full of pumping juice were his sinews. How tender was his skin, the cheeks of his face like a peach. He knew that they would converge upon him so swiftly that there wouldn't be time for him to cry out. He knew that they could not help themselves, even as Peter wanted to say, but it happened much faster than he expected. Wait, he thinks. He wants to tell Mr. Breeze. I want? But there isn't really any time for that. Oh, Mom, I am a good boy, he thinks. I want to be a good boy. Well, that was interesting to say the least. And there's so many more stories after that. Kind of reminds me of Sweet Tooth, I believe, was the movie where kids were born as like in animal form. Like you could still see their cute little faces and stuff, but they weren't normal kids anymore. But thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in Rockies. Thank you to all of my friends out there, wherever you may be listening Beyond the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully sometime this week, but if not, it'll be next weekend. Don't forget, we're all in this together. Together we can make the world better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Alright, well, you guys stay safe in this crazy-ass world out there. It seems like everywhere is going to the dumps. All kinds of craziness. Who knows what's going to happen next? But hey, if we work together, we can get through it. If you guys have any stories or just want to chat or whatever, you can send me an email at weareparadoxmedia@gmail.com, or you can send me a letter at P.O. Box 663, Bayfield, Colorado 81122. Nighty-night, love and light, take care of my yous, and I will see you back here, same crazy time, same crazy place. Mwah.